Hi guys, tonight we drift quietly into the frozen world of the high north to see how a house made of snow can keep you warm. The sun is sinking below the edge of the world. The air is turning very cold. It feels like sharp needles against your cheeks. The wind is coming off the ice like a frozen river, finding every gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry snow crunching under your boots as you walk. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you want to let me know where you are listening from and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. You are standing on a vast plain of white. As far as you can see, there is nothing but snow and ice. The sky above you is changing colour. A moment ago, it was a pale yellow, like the inside of a winter apple. Now, it is turning a deep, dusty purple. The sun has dipped below the line where the earth meets the sky, but it has left behind a glow that lingers. This is the start of the long night. In this part of the world, the sun does not just go down for a few hours. It hides away, leaving you in a world of blue shadows and bright stars. You feel the weight of your clothes. They are heavy, but they are kind. They are made of animal skins that have been sewn together with great care. On your feet, you are wearing qulliq. These are special boots made of seal skin. They are very clever. The people of the north, known as the Inuit, have made these for hundreds and hundreds of years. They are waterproof and so warm that your toes feel like they are tucked into a bed, even though you are standing on a giant sheet of ice. You can feel the soft fur against your ankles. It is a steady, quiet warmth. The wind begins to pick up. It is not a loud wind yet. It is more like a whisper, but it is a cold whisper. It carries tiny bits of ice that look like diamond dust in the fading light. When these tiny bits of ice hit your face, they sting just a little bit. You pull your hood closer to your head. The fur trim of your hood catches your breath. You can see the steam from your mouth turning into little white clouds. Those clouds do not last long. The cold air grabs them and turns them into frost. You can feel the frost starting to form on the hair around your face. It feels stiff and heavy, but it also acts like a shield against the breeze. You look around at the ground. It is not smooth like a skating rink. It is bumpy and rough. The wind has spent weeks blowing the snow into hard ridges. These ridges look like frozen waves on a sea of milk. You take a step, and the snow does not give way. It is hard and firm. It feels like stone under your boots. This is good. This is the snow you will need. If the snow was soft and fluffy like a pillow, it would not be strong enough to build with. But this snow has been packed down by the hands of the wind until it is solid. You take a moment to just stand still. In the world you come from, there is always noise. There are cars or televisions or the hum of the fridge, but here the silence is so deep it feels like a heavy blanket. When the wind stops for a second, the quiet is almost like a sound itself. It is a peaceful silence. You are far away from any town or city. You are in a place where the earth is still in charge. You look up and see the first star. It is a tiny, bright point of light in the purple sky. Then you see another and another. They look much closer here than they do at home. They look like they are watching over the ice. The Inuit people who live here know this cold very well. For a long time, they moved across this ice to hunt and find food. They did not have bricks or wood to build houses. There are no trees here. There are no forests. There is only the sky, the ice, and the sea. So they learned to use what they had. They turned the very thing that was cold, the snow, into a place that was warm. It is a clever way to live. It shows how people can be very smart when they need to be. You feel a shiver go down your back. It is not because you are freezing yet, but because your body knows the temperature is dropping. The night shift is starting. While the rest of the world is tucked into warm beds with heaters and electric lights, life here is different. Here, the night is a time for work and survival. To stay safe, you must build. You cannot stay out in this wind for too long. If you stay still, the cold will find its way through your furs. It will start to steal the heat from your skin. You need to create a space where the wind cannot reach you. You look at your hands. You are wearing thick mittens. They are made of 2 layers. The inner layer is soft and fuzzy, and the outer layer is tough skin. Even through the mittens, you can feel the cold metal of the knife at your belt. This knife is your most important tool. It is long and thin, like a giant butter knife. It is not for cutting wood. It is for cutting the world around you. The light is almost gone now. The world is becoming a place of deep blues and blacks. The ridges of snow cast long dark shadows that look like ink spilled on a white floor. You find a spot where the snow feels just right. You tap it with your boot. It makes a dull thud, like hitting a piece of wood. This is the spot. This is where you will make your stand against the Arctic winter. You think about how strange it is. You're going to build a house out of frozen water to keep yourself from freezing. It sounds like it should not work. If you touch an ice cube, it feels cold. If you put snow in your hand, it melts and makes you chilly. But you know the secret. The snow is full of tiny pockets of air. Air is a very good friend when it comes to staying warm. It holds on to heat and does not let it go. By piling up the snow, you are really piling up millions of tiny bubbles of warm air. You take a deep breath. The air is so cold it feels crisp in your lungs. It tastes clean. There is no dust here. There is no smoke. It is the purest air you have ever breathed. You feel a sense of calm. Even though the storm might be coming, you know what to do. You have the tools and you have the snow. You are part of a story that has been told for thousands of years. It is a story of how people found a way to be cozy in the most frozen place on earth. You look back at the horizon one last time. The purple has turned to a very dark indigo. The stars are out in thousands now. They are so bright, they almost light up the ground. You can see the sparkle on the surface of the snow. It looks like someone has scattered glitter across the world. It is beautiful, but it is a cold beauty. It is time to stop looking and start moving. You reach for your knife. Your fingers move slowly inside your mittens. You are not in a rush. In the cold, you must move steadily. If you move too fast, you will sweat. If you sweat, your clothes will get damp. And in the Arctic, damp clothes are a danger. You must work with a slow, easy rhythm. You must keep your heart beating steady and your breath even. You bend down and touch the snow. It feels dry. It is so cold that it is not even sticky. It feels like fine sand that has been glued together. You press your hand against it. It does not move. It is strong. It is ready to become a wall. You imagine the finished house. You imagine a small dome sitting on the ice, like a white pearl. Inside, there will be no wind. Inside, there will be a golden light. You think about the family who will share this space with you. In the Arctic, people stay close together. The heat from one person helps the next person. In a little while, you will all be tucked inside, listening to the wind howl against the walls. But for now, you are the watchman. You are the one standing guard as the night settles in. You are the one who will turn this frozen desert into a home. The first step is always the hardest. You have to mark out the shape. You use your knife to draw a circle in the snow. You turn your body in a slow ring, dragging the tip of the blade behind you. The line is clear and dark against the white ground. This circle is the map of your safety. Everything inside this circle will be your world for the night. As you finish the circle, you look up. The sky is so vast. It makes you feel very small, but in a good way. It reminds you that you're part of a big, amazing world. The stars don't move. They stay in their places, guiding travelers and hunters. You feel a connection to everyone who has ever stood where you are standing. You feel the strength of those who came before you. The wind gives a sudden sharp tug at your coat. It is a reminder. The night is not a friend, but it is not an enemy either. It is just the way things are. You have to respect it. You have to build well. If you respect the cold, you can live with it. You take your knife and push it deep into the snow inside your circle. It goes in with a soft, crunching sound. Crunch. It is a satisfying noise. It is the sound of the work beginning. You feel the resistance of the snow. It is tough, but your blade is sharp. You begin to cut the first block. This is the beginning of your shelter. Each block you cut will be a shield. Each one will be a piece of a puzzle that keeps the winter away. You feel a sense of purpose. The cold is all around you, but you have a plan. You are going to build a miracle made of ice. The silence returns as you pause. You listen. Somewhere far off, you hear the crack of the sea ice. It sounds like a distant gunshot. The ice is moving and shifting under the weight of the ocean. It is a reminder that the world is alive, even when it looks frozen solid. You take one more moment to look at the stars, then you look back down at your work. The night is long, and you have much to do. But you are ready. You are warm in your furs. You are strong in your heart, and the snow is waiting. You stand there for a moment, just looking down at the white world beneath your feet. To most people, snow is just snow. It is the cold stuff that falls from the sky in winter. It is the stuff children use to make snowmen or throw in fun fights. But here, in the deep Arctic, snow is much more than that. It is your wood. It is your brick. It is the very skin of your hoe. You look at the ground and realize that not all snow is the same. Some snow is soft and light, like powdered sugar. If you tried to build with that, it would just blow away in the wind. Some snow is icy and slick. But the snow you are standing on is special. It has been changed by the wind and the cold into something very strong. You reach down and brush away the very top layer of loose flakes. Underneath, the snow is hard. It feels almost like a giant block of white chocolate. You take your snow knife, which the Inuit call a panna. In the old days, a long time ago, a panna was not made of metal. People did not have shops where they could buy steel blades. Instead, they used what the land gave them. They would carve a panna out of the ivory tusk of a walrus or the hard bone of a whale. It was a beautiful, smooth tool that felt warm in the hand. Your panna today might be made of steel, but it still has that same long, thin shape. It is about as long as your arm, from your elbow to your fingertips. It is flat and wide, perfect for slicing through the frozen crust of the earth. You press the tip of the panna into the snow. You don't have to push very hard. The blade slides in with a sound that is hard to describe. It is a soft, dry shuck noise. It sounds like someone stepping on a bag of corn flour. You feel the vibration of the blade move up through the handle and into your wrist. It tells you that the snow is solid all the way down. This is important. If there were soft spots or air holes deep inside the snow, your blocks would snap in half when you try to lift them. But this snow is perfect. It is dense. It is heavy. It has been packed down by the weight of many storms. You think about how clever nature is. The very wind that is trying to freeze you is the same wind that made this snow strong enough to protect you. All through the late autumn and the early winter, the wind has been screaming across the ice. It has been picking up tiny ice crystals and smashing them together. It's been tamping them down over and over like a giant hammer hitting the ground. This process makes the snow very thick. It is so thick that it can hold the weight of a person without sinking. It is so thick that you can cut it into shapes, and it will hold those shapes just like a piece of stone. You move your feet a little, feeling the grip of your boots. The snow does not crunch like it does on a pavement in a city. It makes a high-pitched squeak. That squeak is a sign of how cold it is. When it is truly freezing, the tiny crystals of snow are so hard that they rub against each other like grains of sand. You listen to that sound for a moment. Squeak, squeak. It is the only sound in the world right now other than your own breathing. You feel a strange kind of respect for the ground. It looks so plain and simple, just a flat white floor, but it is full of secrets. One of those secrets is how the snow keeps you warm. You know that if you put a piece of ice in your mouth, it feels cold. If you hold the snowball, your hand gets chilly. But this snow is full of tiny, tiny pockets of air. Each little crystal of snow is like a tiny snowflake that has been crushed. Between those crystals are millions of little spaces. These spaces are filled with air that does not move. In science, we call this insulation. But to you, right now, it just means that the snow is like a thick woolly jumper for the whole world. It does not let the heat move through it easily. If you make a wall of this snow, the cold from the outside will have a very hard time getting through all those tiny air pockets to reach you on the inside. You look at the panna in your hand. It is a simple tool, but it is one of the most important things a person can own in the north. Without it, you would just be a person standing in the wind. With it, you are a builder. You are the architect of your own safety. You run your gloved thumb along the flat side of the blade. It is smooth and cold. You imagine the hunters from hundreds of years ago doing the same thing. They would stand in the same purple light, looking at the same stars, feeling the same wind. They knew the language of the snow. They had many different words for it. They had a word for snow that is falling. They had a word for snow that is on the ground. They had a word for the hard snow that is perfect for building. This knowledge was passed down from fathers to sons and mothers to daughters for a long, long time. It was a gift of survival. You take a deep breath and look out at the horizon. The world is so white it almost glows, even though the sun is gone. This is because the snow reflects every little bit of light from the stars and the moon. It is never truly pitch black here. The ground acts like a giant mirror. It catches the pale light from the sky and bounces it back up. It creates a soft, ghostly glow that lets you see your own hands and the tools at your feet. It is a very peaceful kind of light. It doesn't hurt your eyes. It just sits there, quiet and still, covering everything like a thick coat of white paint. You bend down to start your first real cut. You have already drawn the circle, and now you need to get the first block out of the ground. This is often called the key block. You find a spot just inside your circle. You push the panna deep into the snow, making a long, straight line. Then you move the knife over about 2 feet and make another parallel line. You connect them at the top and bottom. Now you have a rectangle drawn into the frozen earth. You have to be careful. You don't want to rush. You want the edges to be as straight as possible. As you work, you think about how quiet your mind is becoming. In the world of the day shift, there are always things to do. There are emails to check, phones that ring, and chores that never seem to end. But here, in the night shift of the Arctic, there is only one thing that matters. You need to cut this block. You need to build this wall. The cold simplifies everything. It takes away all the small worries and leaves you with only the big, important ones. It is a very honest way to live. Your body is working, your breath is steady, and your focus is sharp. You feel a sense of wonder at how the snow feels. It is not wet. Because it is so cold, the snow stays completely dry. It feels more like carving a piece of very hard foam or a block of chalk. When you pull the knife out, a little bit of snow dust follows the blade. It looks like white flour. You blow it away, and it disappears into the dark. You can see the clean, sharp edge you have made. It is beautiful. There is a real joy in making something with your own hands, especially when you are using nothing but the earth itself. You think about the animals that live here too. The polar bear and the Arctic fox know the secrets of the snow. They know that if they dig a hole and crawl inside, the snow will protect them. They don't have knives or shovels, but they have the same instinct you have. They seek the quiet, still air inside the drifts. You are doing the same thing, just in a more clever way. You are using your brain and your tools to do what the animals do with their claws. You are part of the nature of this place. You are not an intruder. You are a resident, learning to follow the rules of the ice. You pause for a second and look at your boots again. You notice how the snow has gathered in the folds of the sealskin. It looks like powdered sugar. You tap your feet together to knock it off. Thump, thump. The sound is muffled. Everything here is muffled. It is as if the whole world is wearing a pair of giant earmuffs. This is one of the best things about being out here. The peace is so big that you can almost feel it pressing against you. It makes you feel very calm. Your heart rate is slow. You are not afraid of the cold because you know how to handle it. You know that the ground beneath you is not your enemy. It is your provider. It is giving you everything you need to be safe. You look at the panna again. You think about how many blocks you will need to cut. It will be many. But you don't think about the whole house yet. You only think about this one block. You focus on making the cut deep enough. You want to reach the bottom of the hard layer. You can feel the change in the snow as the knife goes deeper. It gets a little harder, then a little softer. You are learning the history of the winter just by moving your blade. Each layer of snow is a different storm that happened weeks ago. It is like reading the rings of a tree, but instead of years, you are reading the days of the Arctic autumn. The air is very still now. The wind has dropped for a moment, leaving the world in a state of perfect rest. You take a moment to just reflect on how lucky you are to be here. Most people will never see this. Most people will never know the feeling of standing on the roof of the world, surrounded by nothing but starlight and snow. It is a lonely place, but it is not a sad loneliness. It is a grand, noble kind of solitude. You feel like a king in a white kingdom. Everything you see belongs to the night, and you are the one who is awake to see it. You put your hand on the surface of the snow one more time. It is cold, yes, but it is also solid and dependable. You know that in a few hours, this very snow will be part of a wall that keeps you warm and cozy. It is a magic trick of the north. You take the cold and you turn it into warmth. You take the wind and you turn it into silence. You are ready to lift the first block. You are ready to start the journey from the freezing outside to the warm inside. You grip the handle of your panna, settle your weight on your feet, and prepare to bring the first piece of your home out of the ground. This is the start of the night's work, and it is a good work. Before you can truly begin to build your snow house, you must be sure you have chosen the perfect spot. You cannot just build anywhere on this vast white plain. If you pick a place where the snow is too soft, your house will tumble down like a stack of cards. If you pick a place where the snow's too thin, you will hit the hard sea ice before your walls are high enough. You need to find the quarry. In the world of builders, a quarry is a place where you get your stone. For you, the quarry is a deep drift of snow that is being frozen into a solid block by the breath of the Arctic. You walk slowly away from your first experimental cuts. You are looking for a specific kind of snow. The Inuit call this building snow avark. It is not the kind of snow that falls gently from the sky on a quiet afternoon. This snow was born in a storm. It was blown across the ice for miles, ground down into tiny grains, and then slammed into a drift. This process makes it very strong. You are looking for a spot where the wind has done all the hard work for you. You are looking for a place where the snow has been packed so tightly that even a heavy sled could run over it without leaving a mark. You carry a special tool with you. It is called an anurat. It is a long thin probe made of bone or wood. Use it to test the ground beneath your boots. You hold the probe in your gloved hand and push it down into the white surface. It is a very simple tool, but it tells you everything you need to know. As you push the probe, you feel for resistance. If the probe slides in too easily, the snow is too loose. If it stops suddenly with a sharp clack, the snow is too shallow and you have hit the ice. What you want is a steady, firm push. You want to feel the probe sink deep into a solid, even layer of white. You walk a few more paces to the left. The wind is biting at your nose now, but you don't mind. You are focused on the ground. You tap the snow with the heel of your boot. Thud. Thud. It sounds like you are walking on a wooden floor. This is a very good sign. In the history of the North, hunters were taught from a very young age to listen to the song of the snow. They could tell just by the sound of their footsteps if the ground was safe to walk on or if it was perfect for building. This was a vital skill. In a blizzard, you might only have a few minutes to find the right spot before the wind becomes too strong to stand. You are learning that language now. You are learning that language now. You are listening to the earth. You push the anurat probe down again. This time it goes deep. It sinks through 1 foot of snow, then 2, then 3. You feel no soft spots. You feel no gaps. This is a massive solid drift of avark. It is exactly what you need. You feel a sense of relief. Finding the right snow is like finding gold in the ground. It means your house will be strong. It means you will be safe. You pull the probe out, and a tiny, perfect hole is left behind. You look at it for a moment, thinking about how much weight that snow can hold. It is one of the miracles of the Arctic. The very thing that looks so soft and fragile is actually strong enough to support a dome that can withstand a hurricane. You stand in the center of your chosen spot. You look around at the horizon. The purple light has deepened into a dark, royal blue. The stars are pulsing with a cold white light. You are completely alone, yet you do not feel lonely. You feel like you are part of a very old dance. You are doing exactly what people have done for thousands of years. You are using your eyes, your hands, and your tools to read the land. You are looking for a place to rest in a world that never stops moving. You take a moment of reflection. You think about how different this is from building a house in a city. At home, you buy wood and bricks that someone else made. You use machines and loud tools. But here, everything is quiet. The materials are already here, waiting for you. The snow was made by the wind. The ice was made by the cold. All you are doing is moving it into a different shape. You are a partner with the winter. You are not fighting it, you are working with it. There is a deep peace in that thought. You are not an outsider, trying to force your way into the Arctic. You are becoming a part of the Arctic itself. You look down at your boots. They are made of the skin of the qulliq, or the bearded seal. This skin is very thick and tough. It protects your feet from the frozen ground. You can feel the coldness of the snow through the soles, but it is a distant cold. It is not biting you. You feel the firmness of the ground. It is steady. It is reliable. You think about the families who do this together. The father would test the snow while the children watched and learned. The mother would prepare the furs and the oil lamp. It was a team effort. Even though you are here by yourself in this story, you can feel the presence of all those families who came before you. Their knowledge is in your hands. Their wisdom is in your tools. You decide to test the area one last time. You walk in a wide circle, pushing the probe into the snow every feet. You want to make sure the drift is big enough for your whole house. You don't want to start building and then find out that half of your house is on soft snow. The probe goes in deep every time. Shuck. Shuck, shuck. The sound is rhythmic and calming. It is a bit like the ticking of a clock, but much softer. Each time the probe goes in, it confirms that you have found a good place. You have found a sanctuary. You notice a small ridge of snow nearby. It has a sharp, clean edge carved by the wind. You walk over to it and touch it with your mitten. It feels as hard as a piece of plastic. You can see the layers in the side of the ridge. Each layer is a different story of the weather. One layer might be from a heavy snowstorm, another layer might be from a day when the sun was out and the top of the snow melted just a little bit before freezing again. This is called a crust. A crust is good because it acts like a seal. It holds the softer snow underneath in place. It keeps the air trapped inside, which is what makes the snow such a good insulator. You think about the word insulator. To you, right now, it just means warmth. You are standing on a giant frozen blanket. If you were to dig a hole and crawl into it, you would find that it is much warmer under the snow than it is on top of it. This is why small animals like mice and lemmings live under the snow all winter. They have little tunnels and rooms down there. They are safe from the wind and the freezing air. You are about to do the same thing, but you are going to build your room above the ground using the snow itself. You look at your panna, the snow knife, hanging at your side. It is ready for work. You have found the spot. You have tested the snow. You have listened to the silence and felt the strength of the ground. Now it is time to mark the circle again, but this time it is for real. This is where your home will stand. This is where you will light your lamp and cook your food. This is where you will find your peace. You take a deep breath. The air is so cold it makes your nose tingle. You like the feeling. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel sharp. You are ready to start. You reach for the panna and hold it firmly. You look at the stars one last time before you focus on the ground. The big work is about to begin. You feel a sense of pride. You're a watchman of history, and you're about to build a masterpiece out of nothing but frozen water and cold air. You begin to walk in a circle, dragging the tip of your knife. The line is dark and crisp. You make the circle about 10 feet wide. This is a good size. It is big enough for a family to sit and sleep, but small enough to stay warm. A house that is too big is hard to heat. A house that is too small is cramped. This is just right. It is the perfect circle of safety. As you finish the circle, you step back and look at it. It is a perfect ring on the white snow. It looks like a giant wedding ring. Inside this ring, you will be the master of the cold. You will create a world of golden light and soft furs. You will be safe from the blizzard that is gathering somewhere far off in the dark. You feel a sense of calm. The choice has been made. The spot is perfect. The snow is strong. The night is yours. You bend down and prepare to make the first cut in your new permanent spot. You are not just cutting snow anymore. You are carving the walls of your life for the night. You feel the weight of the task, but it is a good weight. It is the weight of survival and the weight of home. You press the blade into the snow, and the journey continues. One block at a time, one breath at a time. The Arctic is watching, and you are ready to show it what you can do. The silence is your companion, and the stars are your light. Everything is exactly as it should be. You bend your knees and bring your panna down to the snow. You are standing inside the circle you drew. This is an important trick of the Arctic. You do not get your building blocks from somewhere else and carry them here. That would be too much work. Instead, you harvest the blocks from the very floor of your house. By digging the blocks out of the ground inside the circle, you are doing two things at once. You are getting the bricks for your walls, and you are also making the floor lower. A lower floor is good. It gives you more room to stand up later without making the house too tall. It is a very clever way to save time and energy. You place the long blade of the knife onto the hard surface. You decide that your first block should be about 2 feet long and about 1 foot wide. This is a good size. If the block is too big, it will be too heavy to lift. If it is too small, you will have to cut hundreds of them, and that would take forever. You want a block that feels solid in your arms, but does not make your back hurt. You begin the first cut. You push the blade down. It goes in with that familiar, dry sound. Shuck. You move the knife along the line, feeling the resistance. The snow is so thick that it feels like you are cutting through a very dense loaf of bread. You finish the first long cut. Now you move to the side to make the short cut. You have to make sure your corners are sharp. If the corners are rounded, the blocks will not fit together well. You want them to be like perfect bricks of white clay. As you work, you notice how the light from the stars catches the edge of the blade. The steel is dark, but the edge is bright. You move the knife slowly and steadily. You are not trying to be fast. You are trying to be right. You finish the second cut, then the third, and finally the fourth. Now you have a rectangle sitting in the ground, but it is still attached at the bottom. This is the part that requires a bit of magic. You need to cut the bottom of the block without breaking it. You push your panner into the side of the block, near the bottom. You tilt the blade so it is flat, parallel with the ground. You slide it under the block. You can feel the blade moving through the snow. It is a very satisfying feeling. It feels smooth and controlled. You move the knife back and forth, like a saw. You are severing the block from the earth. You can feel when it is almost done. The block starts to wiggle just a little bit. It is becoming its own thing. It is no longer part of the ground. It is now a tool for your survival. You take a moment to stop. You stand up straight and stretch your back. The air is very cold, but you are starting to feel a little bit of warmth under your furs from the work. This is the danger zone. You must not get too hot. You do not want to sweat. You take a deep breath and let it out slowly. You look at the sky. The stars are so thick now that they look like a blanket of diamonds. There is no moon yet, but the starlight is enough to see the pale white of the snow. You listen to the silence. It is so quiet that you can hear the tiny tink-tink sound of your own frozen breath falling onto your coat. It sounds like tiny bells. This is a moment of perfect peace. You are the only person for miles, and you are doing something very special. You look down at your panner. The handle is a microhistory detail that you find very interesting. It is not made of plastic or rubber. It is made from a piece of caribou antler. The antler is strong and light. It has been smoothed down by years of use until it fits your hand perfectly. It feels warm to the touch, unlike the cold steel of the blade. It is wrapped in a thin strip of leather to give you a better grip. This knife was not made in a factory. It was made by hand, for a hand. It is a tool that belongs in this landscape. It is as much a part of the Arctic as the ice itself. You reach down and put your hands on the sides of the block. You are wearing your thick mittens, so you cannot feel the texture of the snow with your skin, but you can feel its weight. You give the block a gentle tug. It doesn't move at first. You use your panner to slice just a little bit more at the base. Then you try again. This time you hear a soft pop. The block breaks free from the ground. You lift it up slowly. It is surprisingly heavy. It feels solid and deep. You set it down on the edge of your circle. You look at the hole where the block used to be. The snow inside the hole is a beautiful pale blue color. It is the color of a shallow sea or a clear summer sky. This is because the light is bouncing around inside the snow. It is a very calm, cool color. You realize that you are looking at snow that has not seen the light of day for a long time. It has been buried under other layers for weeks or even months. You feel like you are uncovering a secret. Now that you have the first block out, the rest will be easier. You have a gap in the ground now, which means you can slide your knife in from the side. You begin to cut the second block. You follow the same steps. Long cut, short cut, bottom cut. The rhythm of the work starts to take over. Your mind drifts as your hands do the job. You think about the history of this place. Did you know that a skilled Inuit hunter could build an entire snow house in less than an hour? If a sudden blizzard came screaming across the ice, they didn't have time to move slowly. They had to be fast. They could cut and stack the blocks with such speed that the house would rise up around them like a growing mushroom. It is an amazing thing to think about. You are moving much slower, but you can feel that same drive to build. You finish the second block and lift it out. Pop. You place it next to the first one. Then you cut the third. Then the fourth. As you remove the blocks, the floor inside your circle begins to drop. You are creating a query right where you stand. The walls around you are starting to look like a small trench. This is good. It protects your legs from the wind while you work. The wind is still blowing softly, but it cannot reach you as easily now. You feel a little bit more protected with every block you remove. You stop to look at the blocks you have gathered. They are not all perfectly the same, but they are close. They look like giant sugar cubes. You run your mitten over the surface of one. It is very smooth. You can see the tiny crystals of ice that make up the block. They are packed together so tightly that there is no space for them to move. This is why the block is so strong. You could stand on this block, and it would not break. It is a miracle of nature. The wind took something as light as a feather. a snowflake, and turned it into something as hard as a brick. You decide to take a very short break. You reach into a small pouch at your waist and pull out a piece of niku. This is a special kind of food. It is dried caribou meat. It is very tough and chewy, but it is full of energy. As you chew it, you feel the strength returning to your arms. The meat has a rich, salty taste. It is the taste of the land. It is the food that has kept people alive in the cold for generations. It doesn't need to be cooked, and it doesn't spoil. It is the perfect snack for a builder on the night shift. You stand there, chewing slowly, and look out over the ice. The world is so vast. You feel very small, but you also feel very powerful. You are changing the world around you. You are taking the flat, empty ice and turning it into a place for a human being. You are making a home. You look at your circle, your pile of blocks, and your trusty panna. You feel a sense of pride. You are doing a good job. The blocks are clean, the cuts are straight, and the circle is round. The silence returns. You can hear your own heart beating in your ears. It is a steady, thumping sound. Thump, thump, thump. It reminds you that you are alive and warm in a place that is very cold and very still. You feel a deep connection to your own body. You can feel your muscles working and your lungs filling with the crisp air. It is a very honest feeling. There are no distractions here. There is only you, the snow, and the night. You swallow the last of the niku and pick up your knife again. You have enough blocks now to start the first row of the wall. You look at the pile. There are about 10 blocks there. They are waiting for you. They are the foundation of your safety. You feel a new sense of excitement. Cutting the blocks was the preparation. Now comes the building. Now you will see the house start to take shape. You take one last look at the stars. They seem to be cheering you on. They are bright and steady, like little lanterns in the sky. You feel a surge of energy. You are ready to lift the first block onto the line. You are ready to start the wall. The night is still young and the air is still cold, but you have everything you need. You have the snow, you have the tools, and you have the will to stay warm. You bend down, grip the first block of the quarry, and the next part of the story begins. One block at a time, one row at a time, the house is waiting to be born. You stand in the center of your circle, surrounded by the blocks you have cut from the ground. Your house is about to grow. You reach down and pick up the very first block. It is a solid, cold weight in your arms. You walk to the edge of the circle and place it carefully on the line you drew in the snow. This is the first stone of your new home. It sits there, white and clean against the dark ground. It looks like a giant tooth sitting on the ice. You feel a sense of excitement. The night shift is moving along, and you are making progress. Before you go any further, there is something you should know about the word for this house. Most people in the world call it an igloo. But in the language of the people who live here, the word is actually Iglu. To the Inuit, an igloo is simply a word that means house. It can be a house made of wood, a house made of stone, or even a house made of stone, or even a house made of sod and grass. The snow house you are building is a special kind of igloo. It is a masterpiece of design that uses the only thing available in the middle of a frozen ocean. It is a reminder that a home is not about what it is made of, but about the safety and warmth it provides for the people inside. Now, you have to do something very clever with your first row of blocks. If you just stacked them straight up in a circle, like a tower, they would eventually fall over. To make a dome, you need the blocks to lean inwards. You pick up your panna, your snow knife, and you look at the top of the first block you just laid down. You don't want it to be flat. You want it to be a bit of a slope. You slice a long diagonal cut across the top of the blocks you are about to lay. Instead of a flat ring, you are creating a ramp. This ramp will go all the way around the circle, getting higher and higher as it goes. This turns your house into a giant spiral, like the shell of a snail. You pick up the second block and place it next to the first one. You have to make it fit perfectly. You use your knife to shave a little bit of snow off the side of the block. Scrape. Scrape. The snow falls away like white wood shavings. You push the second block against the first one. Because the snow is so cold and dry, the two blocks don't just sit next to each other. They weld together. The tiny crystals of ice on the edge of the blocks grab onto each other. It is like nature's version of Velcro. You give the block a little tap with the side of your hand. Thump. It feels solid. It is not going anywhere. You continue to work your way around the circle. Block by block, the wall begins to rise. You feel a rhythm in your body. Lift, place, shave, and tap. Lift, Place, shave, and tap. Each block is a little bit different, but your knife makes them fit. You are like a tailor, but instead of cloth, you are fitting together pieces of frozen water. You notice that the wall is already starting to curve. It doesn't go straight up into the air. It leans in toward you just a tiny bit. This is the secret of the dome. Each block helps hold up the one next to it. They are all working together to stay standing. As you work, you use a special technique to make the joints even stronger. You take some of the loose, soft snow from the ground, the stuff that looks like flour, and you rub it into the cracks between the blocks. This is your snow glue. In the world of building, we might call it mortar, like the stuff that holds bricks together. But here, it is just snow. You press it in with your mittens, smoothing it out. The heat from the friction of your hand melts the very surface of the snow for a split second, and then it freezes solid again. It turns the whole wall into one single, solid piece of ice. It is a microhistory detail that has been used for thousands of years. Without this snow glue, the wind could whistle through the gaps. With it, the wall is as tight as a drum. You stop for a moment of reflection. You are standing in the middle of a rising ring of white. The wall is now up to your knees. You look around and see how the stars are being cut off by the height of the blocks. It is a strange and beautiful feeling. You are building a wall between yourself and the rest of the world. Outside that wall, there is the endless ice, the freezing wind, and the deep, dark night. Inside this wall, there is the beginning of a home. You feel a sense of peace that is hard to find anywhere else. You are safe because you are building your safety with your own two hands. The silence is very deep now. The only thing you can hear is the sound of your own breathing and the occasional snip of your knife. The wind has died down to a tiny breath, but you know it won't stay that way. The Arctic is always moving, always changing. You need to finish this first row before the wind decides to wake up again. You look at the next block in your pile. It is a big one, thick and heavy. You reach down and pull it toward you. You can feel the cold coming through your mittens, but it is not a mean cold. It is just the temperature of the world. You think about the history of the families who lived this way. This was not a hobby for them. It was how they stayed alive. A hunter might be out on the ice for days following a polar bear or a herd of caribou. When the sun went down and the cold became too much, he would stop and build a house just like this one. He would work in the dark, using only the light of the stars. He would think about his family back in the main camp, and he would build his house strong so he could wake up the next morning and continue his journey. You feel a deep respect for that strength. You feel like you are walking in the footsteps of giants. You place the next block. It fits into the slope of the spiral perfectly. You can see how the wall is getting higher as you move around the ring. By the time you get back to where you started, the wall will be 2 blocks high in some places and 1 block high in others. This is the magic of the spiral. It means there are no weak spots. The whole house is one continuous line of snow winding its way up toward the sky. It is one of the smartest designs in human history, and it was invented by people who had no books, no computers, and no machines. They just had the snow and their own clever minds. You take your panner and trim the edge of the block you just placed. You want the top surface to stay at that gentle angle. You are not just building a wall, you are building a path for the next row to follow. You feel the smoothness of the snow under the blade. It is a very satisfying feeling. It is like carving a sculpture. You are creating a shape out of the emptiness. You are making something where there was nothing. The light from the stars seems to be getting brighter. Maybe your eyes are just getting used to the dark. You can see the texture of the snow blocks clearly now. They are not just white. They have tiny shadows and bright spots where the ice crystals catch the light. They look like they're made of crushed pearls. You feel a sense of wonder. Even though it is freezing, and even though you are alone on the ice, you can see the beauty in it. The Arctic is a harsh place, but it is also a very beautiful place if you know how to look at it. You reach the end of the first row. You have completed the circle. You stand back and look at your work. The ring is perfect. It is round and solid. It sits on the ice like a crown. You feel a great sense of accomplishment. The foundation is laid. The first step is done. You are no longer just standing on the ice. You are standing inside the footprint of your home. You take a deep breath of the cold air. It tastes like metal and ice. You feel ready for the next part. You are going to keep building, keep lifting, and keep carving until the stars are hidden away and you are tucked inside your white dome, warm and safe. The night is still quiet. You look at your pile of blocks. You still have many to go, but you are not tired. The work gives you energy. It keeps your blood moving and your heart warm. You pick up the next block and begin the second row. The spiral continues. The house grows. You are the watchman of the night, and your watch is going well. You feel the strength of the snow and the sharpness of your knife. Everything is in its place. The world is cold, but you are creating a pocket of warmth that the winter cannot touch. You move forward into the next hour of the night shift, one block at a time. You are now starting the second row of your snow house, and this is where the real magic begins. You have finished your first circle of blocks, but instead of starting a new layer on top, you are continuing the ramp you made. You pick up a new block of snow from your pile. It feels colder and solid, like a heavy loaf of stone. You carry it to the wall. Because of the spiral shape you started, the wall is now a gentle slope. This is the most important part of the build. It is the secret that makes the snow house stay up without any poles or beams to hold it. You place the block onto the slope. Now, you must do something very clever. You do not want the block to stand straight up and down. If the wall went straight up, you would just have a tall tube of snow. To make a dome, the wall must lean inwards. You take your panner, your long snow knife, and you begin to trim the bottom of the block. You cut it at an angle, like a little wedge. This means that when you set the block down, it naturally tips toward the center of the house. You might think that a block leaning inwards would just fall down onto your head, but that is where the snow is amazing. Because the block is sitting on a slope, and because it is touching the block next to it, it stays right where you put it. It is held in place by its neighbors. In the history of the North, this is a very special trick. It means the house is self-supporting. Even before the roof is finished, the walls are strong enough to hold their own weight. It is a very smart way to build a home when you have no wood to make a frame. You are using the weight of the snow to hold the snow in place. You use your panner to bevel the edges. To bevel means to cut the edge at a slant, so it fits perfectly against the next piece. You do this with great care. Slicey, slicey. The blade moves through the snow with a smooth whispering sound. You can see the tiny white shavings curling away from the knife. You push the block into its new home. You give it a firm shove with the palm of your mitten. You feel it bite. The dry snow of the new block rubs onto the dry snow of the wall. They join together so tightly that you can no longer see the line between them. It is as if they have become one single piece of white stone. A microhistory detail you might find interesting is the way the Inuit builders would check the slant of their walls. They didn't have levels or rulers like builders do today. Instead, they used their own bodies. They would stand in the very center of the circle. As they added blocks, they would make sure that the inside of the wall was always the same distance from their shoulder or their head. By using their body as a guide, they could make a perfect dome every time. It is a very personal way to build a house. The house is literally shaped around the person who will live in it. You take a moment to stand in that center spot now. You look up. The wall is now up to your chest. Because it is leaning inwards, the opening at the top is getting smaller. You can see less of the night sky now. The stars are being framed by a circle of white snow. It is like looking up from the bottom of a well, but a well made of light and clouds. The air inside the circle feels different already. The wind is still blowing across the top of the wall, but down here, where you are standing, the air is starting to go still. The wall is catching the breeze and pushing it away. You pick up the next block. You're working in a continuous spiral now. You don't have to worry about where one row ends and the next begins. You just keep moving around and around, and the house keeps growing higher and higher. You feel a sense of calm. The rhythm of the work is very soothing. Lift, slant, cut, and push. Lift, slant, cut, and push. Your muscles are warm and your mind is quiet. You are not thinking about tomorrow or yesterday. You are only thinking about the next block. You are only thinking about the lean of the wall. You notice how the shadows are changing. The light from the stars hits the outside of the blocks, but the inside of the wall is in a soft blue shadow. It is a very pretty color. It looks like the color of a robin's egg. Every time you add a block, the shadow grows a little bit bigger. You are creating your own little world of shade and light. It feels very private and very safe. You are building a shell around yourself, like a little bird in an egg. The silence of the Arctic night is all around you. You stop for a moment of reflection. You listen. There is no sound at all, not even the sound of the wind for a few seconds. It is a silence so big it feels like it has a weight. It is the kind of silence that makes you feel very small, but also very peaceful. You realize that out here you are part of something very old and very grand. The ice has been here for a long time, the stars have been there forever. And for just a little while, you are here too, making your mark on the white world. You look at your mittens. They are covered in a fine white dust from the snow blocks. You clap them together. Pop, pop. The dust flies away into the dark. You feel the strength in your arms. You have been working for a while now, but you don't feel tired. The air is so fresh and cold that it gives you a lot of energy. Every breath feels like a drink of cold water. It wakes up your heart and makes your eyes feel sharp. You feel ready to finish the next part of the spiral. You think about how the spiral design is like a journey. You start at the bottom and you just keep going up and up. You don't have to make any big jumps. You just follow the path that the snow has laid out for you. It is a very honest way to work. If you make a mistake and a block is too straight, the spiral will tell you. The next block won't fit right. You have to listen to the snow. You have to follow the curve. You reach for another block. This one is a bit smaller. As the house gets taller and the dome gets tighter, the blocks need to be a little bit smaller and more slanted. You use your panner to shave the sides down until the block looks like a little wedge. You fit it into the gap. Thump. You can feel the wall getting stronger. Even though the snow is just frozen water, when it is shaped like this, it is incredibly tough. You could probably lean your whole weight against the wall now, and it would not budge. You look at the ground. There are only a few blocks left in your pile. You will need to cut more from the floor soon. This is good. It means the floor will get even lower, and the house will feel even taller on the inside. You like the way the house is growing. It is not like a building that rises up from the earth. It is more like the house is being pulled out of the earth. You are uncovering the home that was already hidden inside the snowdrift. The wind gives a little whistle over the top of the wall. It sounds like a flute. It is a lonely sound, but you don't feel lonely. You have your work, and you have the stars. You are the watchman of this little corner of the world. You are the guardian of the warmth that is about to be created. You take a deep breath and prepare to cut more blocks. You are halfway to the top. The spiral is doing its job. The dome is closing in. You are moving closer and closer to the moment when you will be fully inside, away from the night and the cold. You take one last look at the wide open ice before you step back into the center to keep working. The horizon is a thin line of dark navy blue. The world is so big and so empty, but inside your circle, things are getting cozy. You feel a sense of pride. You are building a miracle of the north. You are using the secret of the spiral to turn a frozen field into a place of rest. You pick up your knife, you find the next spot for a cut, and you continue the journey upward. The night shift goes on, and your home grows taller with every passing minute. One block, one slant, one whisper of the blade at a time. The walls of your snow house have risen high above your head. You are standing in the very center of the circle, but you are no longer standing on the original ground. Because you have been cutting blocks out of the floor, you are now standing in a deep, sheltered pit. The top of the wall is now curving so far inward that it looks like it might fall. But you know the secret of the spiral. Each block is pushing against its neighbor, and the whole ring is holding itself together with surprising strength. The hole at the top of the dome is now quite small. It is only about the size of a large dinner plate. Through this small opening, you can see a tiny patch of the dark sky and a few bright stars. They look like little white fires burning in the deep blue of the night. Now comes the most important moment in the whole build. You need to close the roof. This last piece is often called the capstone. In the world of big stone buildings, a capstone is the final stone placed at the top of an arch to hold everything in place. Here, it is the same thing, but your stone is made of frozen water. You look down at the floor. You have saved one special block for this very job. This block is slightly larger than the hole at the top. It has to be larger because you want it to sit on top of the edges, not fall through the gap and land on your head. You reach down and pick up this final block. It is heavy, and your arms are starting to feel the work of the night. You have been lifting and cutting for a long time now. Your muscles feel a steady, dull ache, but it is a good ache. It is the feeling of a job nearly finished. You lift the block up toward the sky. Because the hole is small, you have to turn the block sideways to get it through. You push it up, out into the cold air. For a moment, your hands are outside the house again. You can feel the sharp bite of the wind on your wrists where your mittens meet your sleeves. It is a reminder of why you are doing all this work. The world outside is wild and freezing, but inside this circle, things are changing. With the block held high above your head, you begin to turn it. You want it to sit flat across the opening. You use your panna, which is still gripped in one hand, to trim the edges of the hole one last time. You shave away a little bit of snow here and a little bit there. You want the hole to be a perfect snug fit for your capstone. The snow shavings fall down on your face like a gentle winter rain. They feel cold and dry against your skin. You don't wipe them away. You just keep your eyes focused on the work. You need to be very precise. If you cut too much, the block will fall through. If you cut too little, it won't sit level. Finally, you feel the fit is right. You slowly lower the block. You let its own weight do the work. It settles into the gap with a soft, muffled clunk. It fits perfectly. The stars vanish. The little patch of sky is gone. Suddenly the world inside the dome goes very dark. It is not the pitch-black darkness of a cave, because the snow itself is a bit like frosted glass. It lets a tiny bit of the starlight through, making the walls glow with a ghostly pale blue light. But the wind is stopped. You stand there in the sudden deep silence. This is your moment of reflection. For the first time tonight, the air around you is perfectly still. You can no longer hear the whistle of the breeze over the top of the wall. You can no longer feel the tiny stings of ice dust hitting your cheeks. It is as if you have stepped out of the world and into a secret room. The silence is so thick you can hear the sound of your own heart beating against your ribs. Thump, thump, thump. You are safe. You have built a shell around yourself, and for the first time, you are truly on the inside. A simple historical fact about these houses is that they are incredibly strong. Even though they are made of snow, a well-built igloo can hold the weight of a full-grown man standing right on top of the dome. The way the blocks lean against each other turns the whole structure into a single solid piece of engineering. Once the capstone is in place, the house becomes a shield. It can stand up to the strongest blizzards the Arctic can throw at it. It is a house that grows stronger the colder it gets, because the ice binds the blocks together into a frozen fortress. You take your panna and use the flat of the blade to tap the capstone from underneath. Tap, tap, tap. You are making sure it is seated firmly. You don't want any gaps. A microhistory detail that is very clever involves the way the Inuit would finish this top block. Sometimes they would take a small piece of bone or a wooden peg and push it through the joint to make sure the capstone couldn't slide. But usually, the snow itself is enough. As you watch, the edges where the blocks meet begin to frost over. The moisture from your breath is already starting to act like a glue. The tiny crystals of ice are reaching out to each other, locking the roof in place forever. You look around the inside of your new home. It is a perfect dome. The walls curve up and over you in a smooth, white spiral. It feels very small, but also very grand. It is like being inside a giant pearl. The air is still cold, but it is a dead cold. There is no movement in it. This makes a huge difference. Without the wind to steal the heat from your body, you can already feel the temperature starting to change. Just by standing there and breathing, you are beginning to warm the room. It is a strange thought. You are the heater for this house. You are the fire in the middle of the ice. You notice that there is still a tiny bit of light coming in from the gaps between the blocks. Even though you fitted them well, snow is never perfectly flat. There are small cracks where the corners of the blocks meet. You know what you have to do next. You need to chink the walls. In the history of building log cabins, people use mud or moss to fill the gaps between the logs. Here, you will use the rubbish snow, the loose, powdery stuff that was left over from your cutting. You reach down and grab a handful of the soft snow. It feels like flour in your mittens. You press it into a crack near your head. You use the palm of your hand to rub it in, moving in a circular motion. The friction of your hand creates just a tiny bit of heat, just enough to melt the very surface of the powder. Then, the freezing air of the wall grabs it and turns it into ice. The crack disappears. You move to the next one, then the next. You are sealing your house. You are making it airtight. As you work, you think about how peaceful this is. There is no hurry now. The roof is on. You are no longer racing against the coming storm. You can take your time to make the walls perfect. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. You have taken a flat, empty piece of ice and turned it into a three-dimensional space. You have created inside where there was only outside. It is one of the oldest human skills, and you are doing it exactly the way it has been done for 1,000 years. You think about the families who would be doing this together. Once the capstone was in, the children would be invited inside. They would help rub the snow into the cracks, their small hands busy and happy. The father would be checking the outside to make sure the dome looked right. The mother would be preparing to bring in the lamp. The house would quickly fill with the sounds of voices and the smell of family. Even though you are alone, you can almost hear the echoes of those voices in the curves of the snow. The dome is a wonderful shape for sound. It catches every whisper and sends it back to you. It is a very chatty house. You finish the last of the cracks near the top. You stand back as far as you can in the small space. The dome is beautiful. It is not a perfect circle, but it is close. It has a handmade look that is very comforting. It is a house that was made by a human, for a human. There are no straight lines here, only the gentle curves of the spiral. It feels organic, like something that grew out of the ground rather than something that was built on top of it. You look at the floor. It is still a mess of loose snow and the pit you dug to get your blocks. You have a lot more work to do to make it comfortable, but the hard part, the dangerous part, is over. You have a roof. You are standing in the center of your own creation. You feel like a king in a palace of frost. The night shift is halfway through, and you have won the first battle against the Arctic. You have a sanctuary. You take a deep breath. The air is starting to smell a bit like the animal skins of your coat. It is a warm, musky smell. It is the smell of life. Outside, the world is a desert of white and blue, but in here there is life. There is warmth waiting to be woken up. You look at your panna one last time and tuck it into your belt. You won't need it for a while. Now, you need your hands for the softer work. You need to make this space into a home. The silence continues, deep and respectful. You close your eyes for a second and just listen to the nothingness. It is the most relaxing sound in the world. No engines, no wind, no distant hum. Just the quiet pulse of the Arctic night. You feel your shoulders drop. You feel the tension of the build leaving your body. You are safe. You are home. And the best part is yet to come. You are about to turn this cold white room into a glowing golden sanctuary. But first, you must finish the entrance. You must make sure the cold stays where it belongs, outside. You turn toward the floor and prepare to dig the final piece of the puzzle, the cold trap. You are standing in the middle of your new home, and for the first time tonight, you feel a sense of real peace. The roof is on. The stars are hidden. The wind is just a memory. But you are not finished yet. If you were to sit there now and try to sleep, you would soon find that the cold has a way of creeping in through the tiniest gaps. A snow house made of blocks is good, but it is not yet perfect. There are still little cracks where the blocks meet, and those cracks are like open doors for the freezing Arctic air. You need to make your house airtight. You need to seal the walls so that the wind can never find you. You look down at your feet. The floor is covered in what you might call rubbish snow. These are the scraps and shavings that fell while you were cutting the big blocks. In the world of the Inuit, nothing is wasted. This rubbish snow is actually a very important tool. It is soft and powdery, like the flour your grandmother might use to bake a cake. You reach down and scoop up a double handful of it. It is so cold that it does not stick to your mittens. It just sits there, a light and fluffy pile of white dust. You walk over to the wall. You find a spot where two blocks come together. Even though you cut them carefully, there is a small gap where the light from the outside is still leaking through. It looks like a thin line of blue fire. You take your handful of snow and you press it into that crack. You don't just push it, you rub it in with a firm, circular motion. You can feel the friction of your mitten against the hard snow of the wall. This rubbing does something very special. It creates just a tiny bit of heat. It is not much, but it is enough to melt the very surface of the powdery snow. Then, the freezing cold of the block takes that tiny bit of moisture and turns it into ice instantly. This is the secret of the snow glue. You are not just filling the holes, you are welding the house together. As you move around the room, rubbing the snow into every crack, the house begins to change. It stops being a pile of separate blocks and starts to become one single solid shell. It is like a giant eggshell made of ice. In the history of the North, this process was called chinking. It is the same thing people did with log cabins when they used mud to fill the gaps between the trees. But here you are using the land to heal the land. You are using the snow to stop the snow. You move slowly. There is no reason to rush now. The night shift is a time for steady work, not fast work. You find a gap near the floor and fill it. You find a gap near the roof and fill it. You use your panner, the long knife, to scrape a bit more snow from the floor if you run out of powder. You notice that the air inside is getting even quieter. Every time you seal a crack, a little bit more of the outside world disappears. The hushed feeling of the room is growing. Snow is a wonderful thing for sound. It does not let noise bounce around. It soaks up sound like a sponge soaks up water. Your own breathing sounds very loud in your ears. It is a soft, rhythmic huff-huff sound. You take a moment to stop and just reflect. You lean your back against the wall. It feels as solid as a brick wall in a city. You realize that you are now standing in a place that did not exist an hour ago. You have created a world out of nothing. You think about how amazing it is that a human being can survive in a place where the temperature is low enough to freeze your blood. You're doing it not with fire or machines, but with your mind and the simple materials around you. You feel a deep sense of respect for the people who lived this way for thousands of years. They were not just survivors, they were masters of their world. They knew how to turn a blizzard into a blanket. As you stand there, you remember a micro-history detail about the clothing you're wearing. Before you can truly settle in, you have to be very careful about the snow on your furs. You reach for a tool hanging at your belt. It is called an qulliq. This is a snow beater. It is a flat piece of bone, carved from the rib of a whale or a piece of caribou antler. It looks a bit like a small curved wooden spoon, but it is much tougher. You take the qulliq and you begin to beat your clothes. Thwack, thwack, thwack. You start at your shoulders and work your way down to your boots. You are knocking off all the tiny crystals of snow that have gathered on your furs while you are building. This is very important. If you leave that snow on your coat, it will melt once the house gets warm. If your clothes get wet, they will stop keeping you warm. In the Arctic, a wet coat can be a very dangerous thing, so you beat the snow away until your furs are clean and dry. The sound of the qulliq hitting the skin is a dull, comforting thud. It is one of the most common sounds of an Inuit home. It is the sound of coming inside. It is the sound of leaving the winter at the door. You finish beating your clothes and you feel lighter. Your finish is soft and fluffy again. You look at the walls one last time. They are smooth and white, with no more lines of light coming through. The house is now a perfect, sealed dome. You feel a sense of immense safety. The wind could howl at 100 miles an hour outside, and you would not feel a single tickle of a breeze in here. You have built a fortress. A simple historical fact you might find interesting is that once a snow house is sealed like this, it can actually stay quite warm, even without a fire. The heat from your own body will be trapped inside by the thick snow. In a small house like this, the temperature can rise to 15 degrees Celsius, about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, just from the warmth of a few people sitting together. Outside, it might be 40 degrees below zero. That is a huge difference. You are literally living in a different climate than the one just 6 inches away on the other side of the wall. You decide to go outside one last time to check the exterior. You have to crawl through the small hole you left at the bottom of the wall. As you emerge into the night, the cold hits you like a physical weight. The wind has picked up. It whistles across the flat ice, carrying long streamers of white snow. The sky is even darker now, a deep, midnight black. You look at your house from the outside. It looks like a small white hill. It blends in perfectly with the landscape. You walk around it, using the last of the starlight to see. You see a few spots on the outside, where the blocks don't look quite smooth. You take more of the loose snow from the ground and you pack it against the outside of the walls. You are banking the house. You are piling up extra snow around the base to make the walls even thicker. The thicker the walls, the more air is trapped inside the snow. And as you know, trapped air is the best blanket in the world. You work your way around the dome, smoothing the snow with your mittens. You are giving your house a second skin. The silence out here is different than the silence inside. Out here, the silence is big and cold. It feels like the silence of a giant who is sleeping. You look at the horizon and see a faint shimmer of green light. It is the start of the aurora borealis, the northern lights. They are dancing very slowly, like silk ribbons waving in a dark room. They don't make a sound, but they fill the sky with a ghostly glow. You stand still for a minute, watching them. You feel very small under that big, dancing sky. It is a moment of pure wonder. You are a tiny dot on a giant white planet, but you have a warm home waiting for you. You finish banking the snow and you crawl back inside. The transition is amazing. The moment your head passes through the opening, the world changes. The cold wind vanishes. The sharp light of the stars is gone. You are back in your blue, quiet world. You take a piece of snow and block the hole you just crawled through, just for a moment to see how it feels. The silence is now absolute. It is the quietest place you have ever been. It is so quiet that you can hear the blood rushing in your own ears. It is a peaceful, heavy silence that makes you want to sit down and rest. You look at your hands. They are a little bit stiff from the cold, but they are strong. You have done a good job. You have cut the stone. You have built the walls. You have closed the roof, and you have sealed the cracks. You have used the anotak to clean your furs. You have checked the outside and banked the walls. Your night shift as a builder is coming to an end. Now you are moving into the next phase of the night. You are moving into the time of the homemaker. You think about the floor. It is still just a pit of snow. It is not a place where you can sleep comfortably yet. You have a lot more to do to make this house a home. You need to build the sleeping bench. You need to carve the entrance tunnel. You need to light the lamp. But as you stand there in the still blue light, you feel a great sense of pride. You have won. You have taken the worst that the Arctic can throw at you, the freezing air and the biting wind, and you have turned them into a place of peace. You take a deep breath. The air inside the dome is already starting to lose that sharp metallic taste of the outside. It is becoming softer. It is becoming yours. You feel the warmth of your own body reflecting back at you from the snow walls. It is a very gentle warmth, like the ghost of a hug. You settle your weight on your feet and look around. The dome is your world now. It is your sanctuary on the night shift. You are the watchman, and your house is ready to protect you. You are ready to take the next step. You are ready to make the cold trap that will keep the winter out for good. But for just a second, you simply stand there and enjoy the silence you have created. It is a beautiful, hard-earned silence. You sit down for a moment on the floor of your house. Your back is against the curved wall you just finished. The world is very dark, but it is a soft darkness. It is not like being in a room with the lights turned off. It is more like being inside a thick white cloud. The snow walls are thick, and even though they are solid, they are not like stone. They are made of millions and millions of tiny ice crystals. If you had a magic glass that could make things look much bigger, you would see that these crystals are shaped like tiny stars and needles. They are all locked together, but between them, there are tiny spaces. These spaces are filled with air. This is the secret of why you are not freezing. This is the science of the snow. Most people think of snow as being cold, and it is true that if you touch it, it feels chilly against your skin. That snow is actually one of the best blankets in the world. You think about a big woolly jumper that you might wear on a cold day in autumn. That jumper keeps you warm because the wool fibers are messy and tangled. They trap a lot of air inside the knit of the wool. That trapped air cannot move around. Because it cannot move, it cannot take the heat away from your body. Your body heat warms up that little bit of air, and the air stays there, wrapped around you like a warm hug. The snow walls of your house work in exactly the same way. You reach out and touch the wall with your mitten. It feels firm, like the side of a building. But you know that inside that wall there is a hidden world of air. A simple historical fact that is quite amazing is that snow can be made of up to 95% air. Only 5% of it is actually frozen water. This means that your house is mostly made of air that has been caught and held in place by the ice. It is like you have built a house out of frozen bubbles. These bubbles are very good at stopping the cold from the outside from getting in. They're also very good at stopping the heat from your own body from getting out. As you sit there, you notice that your breath is not turning into a thick cloud as much as it did when you were outside. Outside, the freezing wind would grab your warm breath and turn it into frost instantly. But here, the air is still. It is becoming a little bit warmer with every breath you take. You are like a small heater inside a big white box. The heat leaves your skin and moves into the air. It tries to go through the walls to get to the cold night outside, but it gets stuck. It hits the first layer of snow and gets caught in those tiny air pockets. It moves a little further and gets caught again. By the time the heat tries to get all the way through the thick block, it has lost its energy. The warmth stays inside with you. You take a moment of reflection. You close your eyes and listen. The silence is different now. It is a hushed sound. In a normal house made of wood or bricks, sounds bounce off the hard walls. You can hear the echo of your own footsteps or the hum of the wind outside. But here, the snow acts like a giant sponge for sound. It soaks up every little noise. When you move your hand, you don't hear the scrape of your mitten. When you breathe, the sound is soft and deep. It is the most peaceful place you have ever been. It feels like the whole world has gone to sleep, and you are the only one left awake, tucked into a quiet, white dream. You think about the people who first figured this out. Thousands of years ago, the Inuit did not have books to teach them about how air traps heat. They didn't have schools to explain the science of ice crystals. But they were very clever observers of the world. They watched the animals. They saw how the polar bear would dig a hole in a snowbank to sleep during a storm. They saw how the little bird would dive into the soft snow to stay warm at night. They realized that the snow was a gift. It was a shield that the earth provided to keep life safe. They learned to use their long knives to turn that shield into a home. They understood the land better than anyone else ever has. A microhistory detail you notice as you look around is the texture of the walls. Now that you're sitting still, your eyes are getting used to the very dim light. The walls are not perfectly smooth. They have a pattern on them from where you used your panna. To make the walls even better at holding the heat, you take out a different tool. It is called a savik. This is a smaller knife used for fine work. You use the savik to gently shave the inside of the dome. You want to make the walls smooth and even. This is not just to make the house look pretty. If the walls have big bumps or sharp edges, the heat from your body will make those bits melt first. The water would then drip down onto your head while you sleep. By making the walls smooth, any snow that melts will simply run down the side of the wall and turn into a thin layer of ice. You begin to move the savik in slow, steady circles. Shh, 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 shh. The sound of the blade on the snow is like a whisper. You are cleaning up the rubbish from the building process. You are making the interior of your house look like the inside of a polished seashell. As you work, you feel a sense of calm. The night shift is not a time for hurry. It is a time for doing things right. You are preparing your sanctuary. You are making sure that when you finally lie down to rest, you will be dry and warm. You think about the science of the cold trap that you still have to build. You know that warm air likes to rise. It is light and bouncy like a balloon. Cold air is heavy and slow. It likes to sink to the ground. This is why you are sitting on the floor now and it still feels a bit chilly. The coldest air in the room is right here at your feet. The warmest air is up near the ceiling. To make your house truly warm, you will need to find a way to let the cold air out and keep the warm air in. But for now, you just focus on the walls. You focus on the miracle of the air bubbles. You look at the way the light comes through the snow. Because it is night, the light is a very deep, icy blue. It is a beautiful color. It makes the walls look like they are made of precious stones. You can see the layers of the snow blocks. Some layers are a bit clearer, and some are a very bright white. This tells the story of the weather. The bright white layers have more air in them. They were probably formed during a very cold, windy storm. The clearer layers have less air. They might have been formed on a day when the sun was out and the snow got a little bit heavy. Your house is a book of history, and every block is a page. You stop your work with the savik and just sit in the silence for another minute. You feel your heart rate slowing down. The work of building the dome was hard, but this quiet work of smoothing the walls is very relaxing. You feel your muscles beginning to loosen up. The fear of the cold is gone now. You know that you have a wall of millions of tiny air bubbles protecting you. You know that the science of the Arctic is on your side. You are part of a long tradition of people who knew how to live with the ice, not just on top of it. You think about how people in big cities spend so much money on heaters and coal and electricity to stay warm. Here, you have everything you need for free. The wind gave you the snow gave you the air, and your body gives you the heat. It is a very simple and very perfect system. It makes you feel very independent. You don't need a wire or a pipe to keep you safe. You just need your hands and the knowledge of how the world works. The air in the house is now noticeably different than when you first stepped inside. It doesn't sting your nose anymore. It feels soft. You take a deep breath and feel the stillness in your lungs. You look up at the dome. It is a strong, protective curve. You feel like you are being cradled by the earth itself. The stars are still out there, and the wind is still blowing, but they feel like they are in a different world. In here, in your house of bubbles, there is only peace. You prepare yourself to move again. You have one more big job to do before you can truly be cozy. You need to carve the entrance. You need to make the tunnel that will trap the cold. that you take one last look at the beautiful blue-tinted walls. You run your hand over the smooth surface you just carved with your civic. You feel the tiny crystals under your fingers. You are the watchman of the night, and you are learning the secrets of the snow. The night shift is a time of discovery. You are discovering that even in the coldest place on the planet, there is warmth to be found if you know where to look. You stand up slowly, your furs brushing against the snow with a soft rustle, and you get ready to dig. The science is working. The home is holding. You are ready for the next step. You stand up in the center of your dome and look at the floor. It is time to create the doorway. In a normal house, a door is just a hole in the wall with a piece of wood that swings open. But in the Arctic, a door like that would be a disaster. Every time you opened it, the warm air you have worked so hard to gather would rush out, and the freezing wind would come screaming in. To stay truly warm, you must use a bit of clever engineering. You are going to dig a coal trap. This is a tunnel that begins outside, dips down deep into the snow, and then comes back up into the floor of your house. You take your panna, the long snow knife, and start to cut into the floor near the edge of the wall. You are not cutting out toward the horizon. You are cutting down into the belly of the snowdrift. You carve out large blocks of snow and toss them behind you into the middle of the room. As you dig, you are creating a deep trench. The walls of this trench are smooth and white. The deeper you go, the quieter the world becomes. You are leaving the level of the wind and entering the level of the earth. A simple historical fact about the cold trap is that it works because of the weight of the air. Cold air is very heavy and thick. It likes to sink and stay low to the ground, just like water in a bowl. Warm air is light and bouncy. It likes to rise up and stay near the ceiling. By making your entrance lower than your living space, you are creating a place for the cold to get stuck. The freezing air from the outside will crawl into your tunnel, but because it is heavy, it cannot climb up the step into your warm room. It stays trapped in the bottom of the trench, while your warm air sits safely above it like a fluffy cloud. You feel the change in the air as you work. Down in the tunnel, the air is very sharp. You can feel the frost on your eyelashes, but as you climb back up into the main room, it feels much softer. You are building an invisible wall made of nothing but air. It is a microhistory detail that is very smart. The Inuit would often make this tunnel quite long, sometimes 6 or 10 feet. This long tunnel acted like a buffer. It gave the wind a place to lose its energy before it even reached the inner door. As you dig, you can feel the strength of the drift. The snow here is even harder than the snow you used for the blocks. It is the very foundation of the world. You take a moment of reflection. You are standing half in and half out of your new tunnel. You look at the contrast. Above you is the beautiful blue dome of your home. Below you is the dark, deep path to the outside. You realize that you are like a gatekeeper. You are deciding what parts of the Arctic are allowed to come inside and what parts must stay out. You feel a sense of control. The night shift can be a scary time if you are not prepared, but with a good cold trap, you are the master of your environment. You are safe because you understand the rules of the cold. You use your panna to smooth the sides of the tunnel. You want them to be very slick. If the walls are rough, snow might catch on them and block your way. You also carve a little shelf near the inner opening. This is a place where you can leave your boots or your snow beater. It keeps the messy snow away from your clean sleeping area. You feel like a mole or a rabbit, carving out a secret world beneath the surface. It is a very cozy feeling to be underground. The weight of the snow all around you feels like a giant, heavy blanket that is protecting you from everything. You think about the families who would use this tunnel. The children would come crawling through first. Their faces bright with excitement, they would pop up into the main room like little seals coming out of a hole in the ice. The father would follow, dragging in the hunting gear. The tunnel was a place of transition. It was where you left the hunter behind and became a family man again. It was the bridge between the wild white desert and the warm golden home. You feel that transition now as you climb out of the trench and stand in your dome. The silence is now perfect. With the cold trap finished, there is no way for the sound of the wind to get inside. Even if a giant storm were to break out right now, you would only hear a very faint hum, like the sound of a distant bee. You look at the hole in the floor. It is your only link to the outside world. But it is a safe link. You have outsmarted the winter. You have used the weight of the air to build a door that never needs to be closed. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. The night shift is moving along, and your fortress is almost complete. You take a deep breath. The air is still and calm. You are ready to stop being a builder and start being a dweller. You have the walls, the roof, and the door. Now, you just need to bring in the light and the warmth. You look at the empty room and imagine it filled with soft furs and the glow of the lamp. You feel a pull in your heart to get started. You are close now, very close to the moment when you can finally take off your heavy coat and just be at peace. You turn away from the tunnel and begin to prepare the floor for the final touches of the night. You stand back from the edge of the hole in your floor. The tunnel is done. It is a deep, dark curve that leads away into the night. You watch as a little bit of frost breath from your own mouth drifts toward the opening. Instead of blowing away, the white mist sinks. It falls into the hole like a heavy stone dropping into a pond. This is the proof that your cold trap is working. The freezing air from the outside is like a pool of water filling up the bottom of your tunnel. Because that air is so heavy, it stays right there. It cannot float up into your living room. This is the beauty of the night shift in the Arctic. You are using the laws of the world to keep yourself safe. You think about how air behaves. Imagine a balloon filled with warm air. It wants to fly up into the sky. But a bag filled with cold air would just sit on the ground. By digging your entrance lower than your floor, you have made a sink for the winter. The heavy, biting cold stays down in the trench. You can actually feel the line where the air changes. If you reach your hand down into the hole, it feels like dipping your fingers into a bucket of ice water. But up here, at the level of your chest, the air is soft and still. A simple historical fact about the cold wrap is that it was not just for the cold. It was also a safety feature. Because the tunnel is small and low, it is very hard for a large animal, like a polar bear, to get inside quickly. If something tried to come in, you would hear the scraping and the huffing long before they could reach the inner room. This gave the people inside time to wake up and grab their tools. Your tunnel is a filter. It lets in the people you love and the fresh air you need, but it keeps out the wind and the dangers of the dark. You take a moment of reflection. You lean against the curved snow wall and look at the doorway in your floor. It is just a dark circle, but it represents so much. It is the boundary between the wild world and the human world. Outside, the air is moving and angry. Inside, the air is resting. You feel a deep sense of calm. You have mastered the air. You have used a simple hole in the ground to create a miracle of physics. You are warm because you are clever enough to let the cold sink away from you. A microhistory detail that is very interesting is the door itself. Even though the air trap does most of the work, you still need a way to close the hole if the wind gets too strong. You look at the large block of snow you cut out earlier. It is your door block. It sits right next to the hole. When it is time to sleep, you will pull this block over the opening. You don't seal it perfectly. You leave a tiny gap about the size of a finger. This is for your air life. You need fresh air to breathe, and your lamp needs air to burn. That tiny gap lets just enough fresh air in, while the heavy cold stays trapped in the tunnel below. You think about the sound of the tunnel. If you lean your ear toward the hole, you can hear a very faint, low moan. It is the sound of the wind passing over the outer entrance, far away at the other end of the ice. It sounds like a ghost playing a flute. It is a lonely sound, but it makes you feel even more snug in your dome. The more the wind moans down there, the more you appreciate the stillness up here. You are like a captain on a ship, listening to the waves hitting the hull while you sit in a dry cabin. You use your panna to widen the step where the tunnel meets the floor. You make it smooth so you won't trip when you go out. You feel the strength of the snow under your knife. It is so hard now that it feels like carving wood. The pressure of the blocks above and the cold of the air have turned your house into a solid shell. You could probably hit the wall with a hammer and it would not break. It is a fortress of frozen bubbles, and the air trap is the gate that keeps the enemy at bay. You look at your mittens again. They are starting to get a bit of frost on them from the work in the tunnel. You tap them together. Pop, pop. You feel a sense of readiness. The structural work of the house is finished. The walls are up. The roof is on. The cracks are sealed, and the air is trapped. You have finished the night shift of the builder. Now the atmosphere of the house is changing. It is no longer a construction site. It is becoming a sanctuary. You take a deep breath. The air doesn't have that sharp ice sting anymore. It feels like the air in a cool cellar. It is a very clean, honest smell. You look at the dark tunnel one last time and then turn your back to it. You are moving deeper into your home now. You are moving toward the comfort of the sleeping bench and the light of the lamp. You feel a surge of quiet joy. You have built this with your own 2 hands, your own tools, and your own mind. You have earned your rest. The silence returns, heavy and peaceful. You are the watchman, and your watch has moved from the outside to the inside. You are now the guardian of the warmth. You look around the blue-lit room and see the potential for a very cozy night. The heavy air is in the tunnel. The warm air is in the dome. And you are exactly where you belong. You are ready to make the final preparations for the long Arctic night. You decide to test your work one last time. You crawl back down into the tunnel and move toward the outer opening. The moment you move away from the main room, the air changes. It gets sharper and heavier. When you reach the end of the tunnel and stick your head out into the night, the Arctic hits you with all its power. The wind is screaming now. It is a loud, chaotic noise that fills your ears and shakes your hood. The snow is flying sideways in the dark, looking like grey ghosts rushing past. It is a wild, lonely world out there. You feel the cold trying to grab your skin, trying to find a way through your furs. But then you pull back. You tuck your head into the tunnel and begin to crawl back toward your dome. With every inch you move, the noise fades. It doesn't just get quieter, it disappears. By the time you reach the step and pop your head up into the main room, the world is silent. It is a transition that feels like magic. You have left the shouting wind behind and entered a world of total quiet. It is as if you have closed a heavy, thick door on the rest of the planet. You are now inside your snow home, and the silence is so deep it feels like a physical thing. A simple historical fact about these homes is that snow is one of the best soundproofing materials on Earth. The thick walls of snow blocks don't just stop the wind, they swallow noise. Because the snow is full of millions of tiny air pockets, sound waves get lost inside the walls. They can't bounce around, and they can't get through. This means that even if a terrifying blizzard is happening just 6 inches away from your head, you won't hear a thing. It is a hushed acoustics that makes the house feel like a very holy, special place. It is the perfect place for a night shift worker to find peace. You stand up in the center of the room and just listen. You can hear your own heart. Thump, thump, thump. You can hear the soft crinkle of your sealskin trousers as you move. You can hear the steady, slow sound of your own breath. Ha! Ha! It is a very grounding feeling. In the world of the day shift, we are always surrounded by noise cars, voices, machines. But here, you are in a sensory deprivation chamber made of ice. It allows your brain to stop working so hard. You don't have to listen for danger because the silence tells you that you are safe. A microhistory detail you notice is the way your voice sounds. You give a little hum just to see. The sound is flat and dry. It doesn't ring out like it would in a stone cathedral. The snow soaks it up immediately. This made the snow house a very intimate place. When a family sat together, they could speak in whispers and still hear each other perfectly. It was a place for secrets, for stories, and for quiet laughter. You feel that intimacy now. Even though you are alone, the house feels like it is hugging you. You take a moment of reflection. You think about how strange it is that the loudest world you have ever known is just outside that wall, yet it cannot reach you. You feel a sense of total privacy. No one can see you. No one can hear you. You are a ghost in a white palace. This silence is your reward for the hard work of building. You have earned the stillness. You have created a pocket of nothing in the middle of a world that is full of everything. It is a very rare and beautiful gift. You look at the walls. They are glowing with that pale, ghostly blue light. It is very dim, but it is enough to see the shape of the room. You realize that the night shift has a different quality in here. Time seems to slow down. Without the sun to watch or the wind to feel, an hour could be a minute or a minute could be an hour. You feel your muscles finally starting to relax. The tension of the builder is leaving you, and the peace of the resident is taking over. You are no longer fighting the Arctic. You are resting in its arms. You take off your mittens and tuck them into your belt. Your hands are warm and dry. You touch the wall with your bare fingers. It feels cold, of course, but it is a dry, smooth cold. It feels like touching a piece of very fine silk that has been kept in a fridge. You feel the strength of the blocks. They are your shield. They are your silence. You take a deep breath and feel the stillness fill your lungs. You are ready to light the lamp. You are ready to turn this quiet blue world into a warm, golden one. But for now, you just enjoy the silence. It is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. The dome is finished, and the silence is deep, but it is very dark inside. You can see the pale blue shapes of the walls, but you cannot see your own feet clearly. It is time to bring the sun into your snow house. You reach into your pack and pull out a stone bowl. This is the qulliq. It is a microhistory detail that is the very heart of an Inuit home. The qulliq is a shallow lamp carved from soapstone, a soft rock that feels heavy and smooth like a piece of dried clay. It is shaped like a half moon. For thousands of years, this lamp was the only source of light and heat in the entire Arctic winter. It did everything. It melted ice for water. It cooked the meat. It dried the wet clothes, and it kept the family warm. You set the lamp down on a small shelf of snow you carved earlier. To make it work, you need two things, fuel and a wick. The fuel is blubber, the thick white fat from a seal. You place a few chunks of the fat into the bowl. For the wick, you use a special kind of moss called suputi. You have gathered this moss during the short summer and dried it out until it is brown and fuzzy. You lay a thin line of the moss along the straight edge of the lamp. You have to be very careful. If the moss is too thick, the lamp will smoke. If it is too thin, the flame will be weak. You are like a painter, carefully arranging your materials. You take a small match or a piece of flint and strike it. The first little spark looks like a falling star in the darkness of the dome. You touch the spark to the moss. At first, there is just a tiny orange glow. You lean in close, and your breath helps the fire grow. The heat from the burning moss starts to melt the seal fat. As the fat turns into oil, the moss soaks it up, and the flame becomes steady. It is not a tall, flickering flame like a candle. It is a long, low line of golden light that runs along the edge of the stone bowl. It looks like a tiny sunset captured in a piece of rock. A simple historical fact about the qulliq is that it was usually the woman's job to look after it. She would use a small wooden stick to trim the wick, making sure the flame stayed even and bright. A well-tended lamp could burn all night long without making any soot or smell. You take your own small stick and gently poke the moss, making the line of fire straight. As the flame grows, the room begins to transform. The ghostly blue of the snow walls fades away, replaced by a warm honey-coloured glow. The shadows of the blocks dance softly against the roof. The house no longer feels like a cold cave. It feels like a living, breathing home. You take a moment of reflection. You sit back and watch the flame. It is amazing how much a little bit of light can change how you feel. The night shift can feel lonely when it is dark, but the light of the qulliq is like a friend. It makes the space feel smaller and cozier. You can see the texture of your furs and the grain of the snow. You realize that this lamp is more than just fire. It is a symbol of life. In the middle of the frozen sea, in a house made of ice, you have created a spark of warmth. It is a small victory over the darkness, and it feels wonderful. The air inside the dome begins to change again. The lamp gives off a very gentle heat. It is not like a big wood fire that roars and pops. It is a quiet, steady warmth. You can feel it on your face, like the touch of a warm hand. The smell of the burning oil is starting to fill the space. It is a soft, earthy smell. It reminds you that even though you are far from the forest, the earth still provides everything you need to be comfortable. You feel a deep sense of peace. The night shift is at its most beautiful now. You are safe, you are quiet, and you have the light of the qulliq to keep you company. The small flame of the qulliq continues to grow, and as the seal oil warms up, a new scent begins to fill your snow home. It is a smell that belongs only to the night shift in the Arctic. It is not a sharp or smoky smell like a bonfire made of wood. Instead, it is heavy, rich, and slightly sweet. It smells a bit like toasted nuts mixed with the salt of the sea. It is the scent of survival. To anyone else, it might just be the smell of oil, but to you, right now, it is the smell of comfort. It means the heater is working. It means the inside is truly becoming different from the outside. You watch the way the heat rises from the stone lamp. You can see the air shimmering just a little bit above the flame. This heat is very precious. Because your house is a dome, the warm air rises and follows the curve of the snow. It travels up the walls and gathers at the very top of the roof. Slowly, like a cup being filled with warm water from the top down, the dome begins to warm up. The freezing air that was here when you first finished the roof is being pushed down toward the cold trap in the floor. You are literally bathing in a pool of rising warmth. A simple historical fact about the seal oil lamp is that it was designed to be smokeless. If you keep the wick trimmed perfectly with your little wooden stick, there is no black smoke at all. The Inuit lived in these small spaces for months at a time, and they needed the air to stay clean. You lean forward and adjust a tiny bit of the moss wick. You want the flame to be a steady, golden line. As you do this, you notice that the tips of your fingers are no longer stiff. The air around the lamp is now warm enough that you can feel the blood moving easily in your hands. It is a wonderful, soft feeling, like dipping your hands into a bowl of warm wool. You take a moment of reflection. You look at the walls of the dome. In the golden light of the lamp, the snow no longer looks like ice. It looks like soft, white velvet. The cracks you filled earlier have disappeared completely, blended into the smooth surface of the blocks. You realize that you are sitting inside a giant work of art. Every block was cut by your hand, every joint was sealed by your touch, and now the whole thing is being lit by a flame you started. You feel a deep sense of ownership. This is not just a shelter, it is your creation. The night shift has turned you from a worker into a master of your own little world. A microhistory detail you observe is the way the qulliq sits on its stand. To keep the lamp from melting the snow beneath it, you have placed it on a small piece of flat bone. This acts as a heat shield. It protects the snow floor while the lamp does its job of heating the air. You reach out and warm your palms near the flame. You can feel the heat radiating outward. It is a very gentle heat, but it is persistent. It doesn't give up. It slowly eats away at the cold until the air in the room feels thick and cozy. You think about how quiet the lamp is. It doesn't pop or crackle like a wood fire. It just whispers. It makes a tiny hissing sound, so soft you can only hear it because the snow walls are soaking up all other noises. This quietness adds to the hushed feeling of the house. It makes you feel like you are in a dream. The golden light, the sweet smell of the oil, and the total silence create a feeling of peace that you cannot find anywhere else. You feel your eyes starting to get a little bit heavy. The hard work of the night is catching up with you, and the warmth of the lamp is telling your body that it is okay to rest. You take a deep breath of the warm, oily air. It feels good in your lungs. It is no longer the stinging air of the blizzard. It is the living air of a home. You look at your heavy furs. They are starting to feel a bit too warm now. This is a great sign. It means the qulliq has done its job. The temperature has risen enough that you no longer need your thickest layers. You are ready to prepare your bed. You are ready to turn this warm golden room into a place of deep Arctic sleep. You settle back against the snow wall, watching the dancing shadows, and let the peace of the night wash over you. The dome is glowing with the soft light of the qulliq, and the air is getting warmer by the minute. But you are still sitting on the ground, and you can feel the heavy cold air swirling around your ankles. Even though the roof is warm, the floor is still part of the ice. To be truly comfortable for the night, you need to move your body up, away from the floor. You need to build a sleeping bench. This is a special platform made of snow that keeps you in the warmest part of the house. In the history of the Arctic, this bench is called the Igloos. It is the most important piece of furniture in the home. You pick up your panel once more. You are not cutting blocks for walls now, you are shaping the floor. You move to the back of the house, away from the entrance hole. You begin to pile up the snow you cut out earlier when you were making the cold trap. You pack it down firmly with the flat of your blade. You want a platform that is about 2 feet high. This is high enough to get your body above the lake of cold air that sits in the bottom of the dome. You shape the snow into a long white shelf that takes up about half of the room. A simple historical fact about the sleeping bench is that it was designed to hold the whole family. In the north, people did not sleep in separate rooms. They slept side by side on one long bench. This was not just because the house was small, it was for warmth. When you sleep close to other people, your body heat works together. One person is like a small candle, but a family together is like a warm stove. You smooth the top of the snow bench until it is perfectly flat. It looks like a bed made of white marble. It is solid and strong. You could jump on it, and it would not break. You take a moment of reflection. You sit on the edge of your new snowbed. You can feel the difference immediately. Your feet are still down in the cold, but your upper body is now in the heat zone. The air here is several degrees warmer than it was on the floor. You look at the ceiling, which is only a few feet above your head. You realize that you have carved out a space where the warmth of the lamp is trapped right next to your body. You feel very clever. You have used the shape of the house and the weight of the air to make a perfect place to rest. A microhistory detail you use to finish the bench is a brow. You take your small knife and carve a little ridge along the front edge of the snow platform. This ridge helps keep your blankets and furs from sliding off the bench and onto the cold floor during the night. It is a tiny detail, but it shows how much thought went into these homes. Every curve of the snow has a reason. Every shape is there to keep you safe and dry. You run your hand over the smooth edge of the brow, feeling the cold strength of the snow. You look around your home from your new, higher view. The room looks different from up here. The lamp seems brighter and the shadows are longer. The hushed feeling is even stronger because you are closer to the snow roof. You feel like you are tucked into a secret pocket of the world. The night shift is almost over for your muscles. The building is done. The furniture is made. You have turned a pit in the ice into a tiered palace of white. You feel a deep sense of calm. The hard part is behind you, and the comfort is right here in front of you. You take a deep breath. The smell of the oil lamp is stronger up here too. It is a warm, thick smell that makes you feel sleepy. You look at your heavy boots and your thick coat. Soon, you will be able to take them off. But first, you need to make this hard snow bench soft. You need to add the layers that will turn a block of ice into a bed. You stand up on the bench, feeling the warmth of the ceiling against your head, and prepare to bring in the furs. You are the watchman, and your bed is ready. You reach into your bundle and pull out the first layer of bedding. A snow bench, though warm and solid, is still made of ice. If you lay your body directly on the snow, your heat would melt the surface, making you wet and cold. To prevent this, you must layer your bed with care. The first thing you lay down is a thick mat of dry willow branches or heather. This creates a breathable layer of air between the snow and your blankets. It acts like the springs of a mattress, giving the bed a bit of bounce and keeping you away from the frozen surface. On top of the branches, you spread the primary layers, the caribou skins. In the history of the Arctic, the caribou is the most important animal for survival. Their fur is different from almost any other animal in the world. Each hair on a caribou skin is hollow. Like the snow blocks of your house, these hollow hairs are filled with trapped air. This means that a single caribou skin provides more warmth than several thick wool blankets. You lay the first skin with the fur side facing down against the branches. This creates a soft, thick cushion that grips the bed and stops it from sliding. A microhistory detail you notice as you smooth the furs is the stitch work. The skins have been sewn together using sinew, the strong, dried leg tendons of the caribou. Sinew is much stronger than cotton thread. When it gets damp, it shrinks and pulls the stitches even tighter, making the seam waterproof. You run your fingers over the smooth, tough lines of the sewing. You can feel the care that went into making these blankets. They were made to last through 100 blizzards. They are not just objects. They are a legacy of hard work and love. You take a moment of reflection. You lie back on the furs for just a second. The feeling is incredible. One moment you are sitting on hard, cold snow, and the next you are floating on a cloud of soft, warm fur. The caribou hair is incredibly soft against your hands. It feels like silk, but it has a deep, thick weight to it that makes you feel instantly safe. You look up at the golden dome above you and realize that you are now completely insulated. You have a shell of snow air pockets around you, and a layer of hollow hair air pockets beneath you. You are wrapped in the cleverness of nature. A simple historical fact about these furs is that they were often worn and used in two layers. The inner layer would have the fur facing your skin to keep you cozy, while the outer layer had the fur facing out to shed the snow. For your bed, you do the same. You place a second caribou skin on top, fur side up. This will be the side you sleep on. When you climb into this sandwich of fur, your body heat will be trapped so effectively that you will feel like you are sitting next to a warm stove. The night shift of the Arctic hunter was only possible because of these incredible animals and the skins they provided. The hushed sound of the house changes slightly now that the furs are down. The soft hair of the caribou soaks up even more noise. The room feels even quieter, if that is possible. You can no longer hear the scrape of your boots on the snow. Everything is muffled and soft. You feel a sense of luxury that is hard to explain. You are in the middle of a frozen wasteland, yet you are surrounded by materials that are warmer and softer than anything found in a modern city. You feel like a king in a palace of velvet and light. You take a deep breath. The smell of the caribou skins is earthy and clean. It blends with the sweet scent of the seal oil lamp to create a very comforting atmosphere. You look at your heavy outer parka. You have been wearing it all night. But now, the bed is ready and the room is warm. You are ready for the best part of the whole evening. You are ready to shed the weight of the world and just be. You feel your muscles finally letting go of the tension. You are safe. You are warm. You are home. You sit on the edge of your fur-covered bench and you notice something wonderful. The air is turning kings like meaty. The air around your face feels different. It is becoming thick and soft. This is because of you. In the history of the Arctic, the most important heater in any snow house is not the lamp, it is the people. Your body is like a small steady furnace. You are constantly giving off heat, and in a small sealed room like this, that heat has nowhere to go. It hits the thick snow walls and bounces back toward you. You are literally warming the room with your own life. A simple historical fact about the night shift in an igloo is that a single person can raise the temperature of the room by nearly 20 degrees in just an hour. When a whole family is tucked inside, the air can become so warm that it feels like a summer day in England. You can feel this happening now. The cold that was clinging to your clothes is melting away. The frost on your hood has turned into tiny drops of water that you easily brush off. You are creating a microclimate. Outside, the world is frozen solid, but inside this circle, you are winning the battle against the winter. You take a moment of reflection. You hold your hands out in front of you. You can see the slight shimmer of the air rising from your skin. It is a quiet miracle. You think about how much energy your body produces just to keep you alive. Out in the wind, that energy is stolen away as fast as you can make it. But here, the snow is your protector. It is holding onto your warmth, guarding it like a treasure. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for your own strength and for the clever design of this house. You are not just surviving, you are thriving. A microhistory detail you notice is the way the snow walls react to your heat. If you look closely at the blocks near the ceiling, you can see them start to glisten. The very top layer of the snow is melting just a tiny bit. This is not a bad thing. As the surface melts, the water is soaked up by the dry snow behind it, where it freezes again. This creates a thin, glass-like skin of ice on the inside of the dome. This ice skin makes the house even stronger and helps reflect your body heat back to you even better. It is like you are sitting inside a giant white mirror that reflects warmth instead of light. You feel a sense of freedom. For the last few hours, you have been a prisoner of your heavy clothes. You had to keep them on to stay alive. But now, the air is so comfortable that you can feel the warmth through your layers. Your heart rate is slow and steady. You are not shivering. Your breath is deep and easy. The hushed silence of the house seems to wrap around you like an extra blanket. You are the watchman, and your own body is providing the light and the heat for your watch. You look at the qulliq. Its flame is small, but it is steady. Between the lamp and your own skin, you have turned a block of ice into a sanctuary. You feel a pull to be even more comfortable. You are ready to shed the heavy outer layers that helped you build this home. You want to feel the warm air on your skin. You move your hands to the toggles of your heavy parka, ready to finally relax. The night shift of work is truly over, and the night shift of rest has begun. You reach for the large bone toggles on the front of your heavy outer coat. In the Arctic, this coat is called an atiji. It is made of thick caribou skin with the fur facing out to shed the snow and wind. All night, this coat has been your armor. It is heavy, smelling of the cold air and the dry snow of the plains. You slide the toggles through their leather loops and pull the coat over your head. As it slides off, you feel a sudden, amazing lightness. It is as if you have shed a heavy burden you didn't even know you were carrying. Beneath the outer coat, you are wearing an inner shirt made of the same caribou skin. But this one is different. The fur is turned inward, so the soft, hollow hairs are touching your skin. This is a micro-history detail of Inuit clothing that is truly clever. By wearing the fur against your body, you create a layer of warm air that moves with you. You feel the warmth of the room hit your arms. It feels like a soft, invisible blanket. You are no longer a bulky shape of fur. You are just yourself, sitting in the golden light of the lamp. A simple historical fact about life inside the snow house is that it was often so warm that people would sit in very little clothing. When the whole family was inside and the qulliq was burning well, it was common to take off almost everything to keep from getting too hot. You aren't quite that warm yet. but you feel perfectly comfortable in your soft inner layers. You look at your arms and see the gentle glow of the lamp on the smooth skin of the leather. You feel a sense of freedom that you haven't felt since the sun went down. You take a moment of reflection. You place your outer coat on the edge of the sleeping bench, near the brow you carved earlier. You look at it, lying there like a sleeping animal. It did its job well. It kept you alive while you built this sanctuary. But now, you don't need it. You are safe. You lean back against the caribou skins of your bed and stretch your arms. Your muscles feel loose and relaxed. The night shift of the builder has completely faded away, replaced by a feeling of deep, quiet luxury. The air in the room is now so still that you can't even feel it moving. It just sits around you, warm and heavy. You notice how the smell of the room has changed again. Now that you have taken off your coat, you can smell the soft, musky scent of the inner furs and the clean, dry smell of the snow. It is a very homely smell. It is the smell of a place where people live and rest. You feel a deep connection to the room. Every inch of it was made for this moment, the moment when you could finally stop working and just be. You look at your boots, your qulliq. They are still on your feet, protecting you from the cold air near the floor. But even they feel different now. The leather has warmed up, and your toes are toasty and happy. You wiggle them inside the fur lining. You feel a sense of pride. You are in one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Yet here you are, sitting in your shirt sleeves, feeling as warm as if you were sitting by a fireplace in a cottage in England. It is a triumph of human cleverness over the raw power of nature. The silence is your constant companion. It is even more beautiful now that you are relaxed. You listen to the tiny hisses of the lamp and the soft sound of your own heart. You feel your eyelids drooping. The hushed atmosphere of the dome is like a lullaby. You are the watchman of the past, and your watch has brought you to a place of perfect peace. You take a deep, slow breath, enjoying the warmth on your skin, and prepare for the quietest hours of the night. You sit perfectly still in your soft inner clothes, and for the first time, you truly pay attention to the silence. In a house made of wood, you might hear the timber creaking as it settles. In a house of stone, you might hear the wind whistling through the chimney or the distant hum of a road. But here, inside the dome of snow, there is nothing. The walls around you are thick, nearly a foot of solid, wind-packed snow. As you know, this snow is not like a hard wall of rock. It is like a giant, curved sponge made of millions of tiny air bubbles. A simple historical fact about the Arctic night is that it is never truly silent outside. The ice is always moving, cracking with sounds like thunder. The wind is always rushing, making a high, lonely singing noise against the ridges. But the moment those sound waves hit your snow wall, they are trapped. The tiny air pockets in the snow catch the sound and hold it, turning the noise into a tiny bit of heat that disappears. This means your home is the quietest place on the planet. It is a hushed world that feels private and safe. You take a moment of reflection. You hold your breath for a few seconds, just to see if you can hear anything at all from the outside. You hear nothing. The silence is so heavy that you can hear the tiny tick of the oil lamp as the stone warms up. You can hear the sound of your own eyelids closing and opening. It is a peaceful, deep quiet that makes the rest of the world feel like it is thousands of miles away. You feel like you are the only person left in the universe, tucked inside a white pearl of silence. A microhistory detail you notice is how this silence affects your own movements. When you reach for a small wooden cup, you find yourself moving slowly and gently. You don't want to break the quiet. In the history of the North, people who lived in these houses became very good at moving without noise. They learned the language of the hush. They spoke in low, soft voices and moved with a grace that didn't disturb the peace of the home. You find yourself doing the same. You are becoming part of the night shift rhythm, slow, steady, and silent. You look at the walls. They are glowing with the golden light of the lamp, and they seem to be watching over you. You realize that this silence is not empty. It is full of a sense of protection. The snow is standing guard. It is holding back the chaos of the storm so that you can have this moment of rest. You feel your shoulders drop away from your ears. All the stress of the day, the hunting, the walking, the building is gone. The silence is washing over you like a warm bath. You think about how rare this is. In the world of the day shift, we are taught to be afraid of silence. We fill our lives with music and talking, but here the silence is a gift. It is a sign that your house is built well. It is a sign that the Arctic respects your boundaries. You are a watchman in a world of total peace. You feel a deep sense of calm in your heart. You are ready for the long, quiet hours of the midnight watch. The lamp flickers just a tiny bit, casting long, soft shadows across the firs. You watch the shadows move and feel your mind drifting. The hushed atmosphere is like a physical weight, pressing you down into the soft caribou skins. You are safe. You are warm. And most of all, you are quiet. You take one last deep breath of the still air and prepare to turn your attention to the next small task of the night. The air in your dome is now warm and the silence is perfect, but the work of the night has made you thirsty. In the Arctic, you cannot just turn on a tap for water. Everything is frozen. To get a drink, you must use the heat of your lamp to change the state of the world around you. You reach for a small pot made of hammered copper or soapstone. In the history of the North, this pot is a precious tool. It hangs from a tripod made of bone or wood, right over the steady flame of the qulliq. You take your snow knife and reach toward the wall near the floor. You shave off a few clean, white flakes of snow. You do not use the snow from outside, which might have dust or salt from the sea. You use the fresh, clean heart of the drift that makes up your floor. You fill the pot with the white powder. At first, it looks like a lot of snow, but you know the secret of the ice. Snow is mostly air. As it heats up, the crystals collapse, and a full pot of snow will only give you a tiny bit of water. You have to keep adding more, bit by bit. A simple historical fact about melting snow is that it takes a long time. The qulliq is a gentle heater, not a roaring stove. You have to be patient. You sit on your furs and watch the snow in the pot. First, the edges start to turn dark and wet. Then a small pool of clear liquid forms at the bottom. You hear a tiny sizzle as the first drop of water hits the hot base of the pot. It is a very cozy sound. It reminds you that even though you are surrounded by a world of ice, you have the power to create life-giving water. You take a moment of reflection. You watch the steam begin to rise from the pot. The steam is white and soft, swirling in the golden light of the lamp. It adds a little bit of moisture to the dry air of the house. You feel the warmth of the steam on your face. It smells clean, like the first rain of spring. You realize how lucky you are to have this small fire. Without it, the snow would stay frozen, and you would be thirsty in a world made of water. The lamp is truly the key to everything in this house. A microhistory detail you use is a small piece of charcoal. Sometimes, to make the water melt faster, hunters would put a tiny bit of old, charred wick into the snow. The dark color would soak up the heat from the lamp more quickly than the white snow. You don't need to do that tonight. You have plenty of time. You use a small spoon carved from a walrus tusk to stir the melting ice. The spoon makes a soft clink-clink against the side of the pot. It is a lonely, musical sound that fits the hushed mood of the night. Finally, the pot is full of steaming, clear water. You lift it carefully from the hook. You pour the water into a small wooden cup. The cup feels warm in your hands, and the heat seeps through your inner mittens into your palms. You take a sip. The water is flat and pure, with just a hint of the earthy smell from the oil lamp. It is the best drink you have ever had. It warms your throat and spreads a glow through your chest. You feel your body relaxing even more. You are no longer just a builder or a watchman. You are a guest in your own home, enjoying the simple tea of the Arctic. You sit back on the caribou skins, holding the warm cup with both hands. You look at the walls, which are now shimmering with a thin layer of frost from the steam. The house is changing, becoming more solid and more yours with every minute that passes. You feel a deep sense of contentment. The night shift has provided you with everything you need. You have shelter, you have light, you have warmth, and now you have water. You are ready to watch the night turn into morning. You lean back against the caribou skins and look up at the ceiling of your dome. Something very special is happening to the walls of your home. Now that the lamp has been burning for a while and your own body heat has filled the room, the inside of the snow blocks is changing. The very top layer of the snow, the part that touches the warm air, is starting to melt. You can see it happening if you look closely at the golden light. The walls are no longer dull and white like a piece of paper. They are starting to shine. They look wet and bright, as if someone has painted them with a thin layer of clear honey. In the history of the North, this is a very important part of making a snow house strong. When the snow melts just a little bit, the water does not drip down onto your head. Instead, because the blocks are made of dry, cold snow, the water is sucked back into the wall like a sponge. When it hits the colder part of the block further back, it freezes again. This creates a glaze of ice. It is a thin, clear shield that covers the entire inside of the dome. This ice shield does something amazing. It seals every tiny hole that you might have missed when you were packing the cracks with snow. It turns your house from a pile of blocks into a single solid piece of frozen glass. A simple historical fact about this ice shield is that it makes the house much stronger. Once the inside is melted and frozen into this glaze, the igloo is so tough that it can last for many weeks, even in heavy wind. It becomes like a giant, upside-down bowl made of ice. The ice skin acts like a skeleton, holding everything together. You could lean your whole weight against the wall now, and it would feel as hard as a brick wall in a city. You are no longer living in a house of snow. You are living in a house of crystal. You take a moment of reflection. You sit in total silence and watch a tiny drop of water move slowly down the curve of the wall. It doesn't fall. It just slides an inch and then stops as it turns back into ice. The room is so quiet that you feel like you can hear the ice forming. It is a very peaceful feeling. You realize that the house is settling. It is becoming a permanent part of the landscape. You feel very safe inside this shield. The world outside is wild and cold, but inside you have a layer of glass protecting your warmth. A microhistory detail you notice is a small hole you must now make in the roof. This is called an qulliq. You take your small knife and poke a tiny hole, about the size of your thumb, right at the very top of the dome. You might think this would let all the heat out, but it is actually very clever. Because you have a lamp burning and you are breathing, the air can get a bit stuffy. The qulliq lets the used air out while the fresh air comes in through the cold trap in the floor. It also stops the room from getting too warm. If it gets too hot, the walls will melt too much and start to drip. The little hole is like a thermostat in a modern house. It keeps everything just right. You look at the way the light from the qulliq reflects off the new ice blaze. The walls are full of tiny sparkles. It looks like you are sitting inside a giant diamond. Every turn the flame flickers, 1,000 tiny points of light dance across the ceiling. It is one of the most beautiful things you have ever seen. You realize that you didn't just build a shelter, you built a palace of light. The night shift has given you a view that most people in the world will never get to see. You feel a sense of wonder that keeps you wide awake, even though your body is tired. You reach out and touch the wall. It feels different now. It is no longer soft or powdery. It is slick and hard. Your fingers glide over the surface. It feels like touching a cold window pane on a winter morning. You can feel the strength of the ice. You know that even if a polar bear were to walk across the roof of your house right now, you would be safe. The dome would hold the weight. You are tucked away in a fortress that is both delicate and incredibly strong. The air inside is now perfect. It is fresh because of the little vent hole, but it is warm because of the lamp and the ice shield. You feel a deep sense of calm. The transformation of the house is complete. It has grown from a circle on the ground to a pile of blocks to a sealed dome and finally to a glazed sanctuary of ice. You have followed the rules of the Arctic, and the Arctic has rewarded you with a home. You take a slow, deep breath and settle back into the caribou furs. You are the watchman of the night, and your house is ready for the long hours of darkness. You sit in the golden circle of light, and your mind begins to drift to the stories of the people who have sat in this very same glow for centuries. In the history of the North, a snow house was never just a place to hide from the wind. It was a place for words. Because the world inside the dome is so hushed and quiet, it is the perfect place for telling tales. You imagine a family sitting together on the long sleeping bench. The children would be tucked under the furs, their eyes wide and bright in the lamplight. The grandmother or grandfather would begin to speak in a low, rhythmic voice. The stories they told were not just for fun. They were maps of the land and the spirit. They told of how the raven created the light, or why the seal lives in the cold water. They spoke of great hunters who could talk to the wind, and of the lights in the sky that dance when the spirits are happy. You can almost hear the low murmur of those voices now, echoing softly off the ice-glazed walls. The shape of the dome catches the sound and holds it, making every whisper feel important. It is a very chatty house, where even the smallest sound feels like a shared secret. A simple historical fact about these gatherings is that they were how knowledge survived. There were no books or schools in the deep Arctic long ago. Everything a child needed to know about life, how to hunt, how to sew, how to respect the ice was passed down through stories told in the dark of the night shift. The silence of the snow house was a teacher. It forced people to listen carefully and to remember every word. You feel that same focus now. In the deep quiet, your own thoughts feel clearer and more meaningful. You are learning the lesson of the stillness. A microhistory detail you notice is a small storyteller's tool. It is a small piece of wood or ivory carved into the shape of a person or an animal. A storyteller would hold this in their hand, moving it in the light of the qulliq to cast shadows on the wall. The snow dome became a giant cinema screen. The shadows would grow and shrink, bringing the legends to life. You look at your own shadow on the wall now. It is large and soft. You move your hand, and the shadow mimics you. You realize that you are part of a very old tradition of finding wonder in the dark. You take a moment of reflection. You think about the power of the human voice. In a world that is so big and so cold, a simple story can make the world feel small and warm. You realize that the warmth of this house is not just from the oil lamp or the furs, it is from the connection of the people who live here. Even though you are alone in this moment, you feel the presence of all those who came before you. Their voices are in the silence. Their wisdom is in the walls. You feel like you are part of a long, unbroken chain of life. The air in the house is steady and sweet-smelling. The lamp is burning brightly. You feel a sense of deep companionship with the room itself. You are not lonely because the house is listening to you. Every breath you take and every move you make is part of the story of this night. You are the watchman, but you are also the teller of the tale. You are the one who is keeping the history alive in the middle of the frozen sea. You take a sip of your warm water and settle deeper into the furs. The hushed atmosphere of the dome makes you feel very safe. You know that as long as the lamp is burning and the walls are standing, you are the king of this little world. You look at the stars through the tiny vent hole in the roof. They look like old friends. You are ready to listen to the night for a little while longer. You are ready to let the silence tell you its own story. As you sit in the golden light of the lamp, you hear a new sound. It starts as a low hum, like the sound of a distant bee. Then it grows into a deep, heavy roar. The wind has returned. Out on the ice, a blizzard has woken up. You can hear the tiny grains of snow hitting the outside of your walls. It sounds like thousands of tiny fingers tapping on the dome. Patter, patter, patter. This is the storm trying to get in. It is searching for a crack, a hole, or a weak spot. It wants to steal your warmth and replace the silence with its own wild shouting. In the history of the Arctic, this is the moment when you truly appreciate your home. If you were still standing outside in your furs, you would be fighting for your life right now. The wind would be stealing the heat from your skin faster than you could make it. But here, inside the dome, you don't feel a thing. The air around your face is perfectly still. The flame of the qulliq does not even flicker. The thick walls of snow and the hushed air pockets are doing their job. They are a shield that the wind cannot break. You are sitting in the eye of the storm, but for you, the storm does not exist. A simple historical fact about the snow house is that its shape is perfect for wind. Because it is a dome, there are no flat walls for the wind to push against. The wind simply slides over the top and around the sides, like water flowing over a smooth stone in a river. The harder the wind blows, the more it packs the loose snow against the outside of your house, making the walls even thicker and stronger. The blizzard is actually helping to make your home more solid. It is a wonderful feeling to know that the very thing that is trying to freeze you is also making your fortress better. You take a moment of reflection. You lean your head against the ice-glazed wall. You can feel the vibration of the storm, a very faint trembling in the snow. It is a reminder of how powerful the night is. You realize how small you are compared to the vast frozen plains, but you also realize how smart you are. You have used the land to protect yourself from the land. You have created a tiny, warm universe in the middle of a cold one. You feel a deep sense of safety. You are like a chick in an egg or a bear in a den. You are exactly where you need to be. A microhistory detail you notice is how the cold trap in the floor is helping. Even though the wind is roaring outside, the heavy cold air is staying down in the tunnel. You look at the dark hole in the floor. You can see a little bit of snow dust blowing across the opening, but it doesn't come up. It stays in the sink you dug. This clever bit of engineering is what keeps your room peaceful. You are sitting in a pool of rising heat, while the storm is trapped in the basement. You feel a surge of pride in your work. Your house is holding. Your watch is going well. You take another sip of your warm water. The steam feels good against your nose. You look at the lamp, which is the only thing moving in the room. The flame is steady and bright. You think about the people who have lived through hundreds of storms just like this one. They didn't have phones to call for help or heaters to turn on. They just had their hands, their knives, and their knowledge. They knew that if they built well, they could sleep through the loudest blizzard. You are part of that history now. You are the watchman, and you have won the battle against the wind. The roar of the storm becomes a background noise, like the sound of a distant ocean. It no longer feels scary. It feels like a lullaby. It reminds you of how cozy you are. You settle down into the caribou furs, feeling the softness of the hair against your skin. The hushed atmosphere is even better now because of the noise outside. The contrast makes the peace feel deeper. You are safe. You are warm. And the night shift is almost over. You are ready to let the sound of the wind carry you toward sleep. The storm outside continues to roar, but inside your dome, the world has reached a state of perfect Arctic midnight. The time of heavy work is long past. The building, the carving, the melting, and the storytelling have all led to this one moment of absolute rest. You are sitting on the high sleeping bench, tucked deep into the layers of caribou fur. The golden light of the qulliq has dimmed just a little as the oil burns low, casting long, soft shadows that stretch across the curved ceiling. These shadows move slowly, like the ghosts of the day, lulling you into a state of deep relaxation. A simple historical fact about the Arctic midnight is that it is often the quietest time for the soul. In the world of the day shift, we are always looking at the clock, rushing from one task to the next. But here, time has no meaning. There is only the rhythm of your breath and the steady glow of the lamp. You have entered the hushed heart of the night. The snow walls, now thick with their internal glaze of ice, have become a part of you. You no longer feel the cold as an enemy. You feel it as the silent guardian of your peace. You take a moment of reflection. You look at the small vent hole at the top of the dome. Through that tiny opening, you can see a single star. It is pulsing with a steady, white light, millions of miles away in the freezing vacuum of space. You realize that you are connected to that star. You are both made of the same ancient dust. In the stillness of the snow house, your mind feels vast, as big as the sky itself. You feel a sense of harmony with the universe. You are a small human in a small house of ice, but you are exactly where you are supposed to be. A microhistory detail you notice is the night plug. You take a small soft bundle of fur and gently push it into the vent hole, leaving just a tiny crack for air. This is the final act of the night shift. It keeps the last bit of warmth from escaping while you sleep. You move slowly, your hands feeling heavy and relaxed. Every motion is deliberate and calm. You are no longer the active builder. You are the passive dweller. You are letting go of the world outside and sinking into the world within. You feel your eyelids getting heavy. The warmth of the room is like a physical weight, pressing you down into the softness of the furs. The caribou hair is so thick and warm that you feel like you are being held by a giant, gentle animal. You listen to the silence one last time. It is a beautiful, heavy silence that promises deep rest. You are the watchman of the night, and you have guarded the history of the night shift well. You have shown how people can find comfort in the harshest places on earth. The lamp flickers one last time, a tiny orange spark in the dark. You are not afraid of the shadows. They are your friends. They are the blankets of the mind. You feel a sense of immense gratitude. You are safe. You are warm. You are home. You are home. You are home. Your heart rate slows to a steady, peaceful drumbeat. You are ready to close your eyes and let the Arctic night take over. The watch is nearly finished, and the rest is well earned. You are now fully settled into the thick, soft caribou furs on your high sleeping bench. The night shift is coming to an end, and your body knows it. The heavy work of cutting the snow, the clever work of building the spiral walls, and the careful work of lighting the lamp are all finished. The dome around you is a solid shell of safety. The golden glow of the qulliq has faded to a tiny sleepy ember, casting a deep orange light that barely touches the edges of the room. The walls, with their beautiful ice glaze, reflect this soft light, making the whole house feel like it is breathing with you. A simple historical fact about the Arctic sleep is that it is often the deepest sleep a person can have. In the total quiet and the steady warmth of the snow house, your brain can finally let go of all its worries. You are not listening for the wind because you know it cannot get in. You are not feeling for the cold because you have built a shield of millions of air bubbles. You are simply resting in a world that you created. You look at the dark tunnel of the coal trap one last time. It is a pool of heavy, freezing air, but it stays down there, far away from your warm bed. You have mastered the rules of the North. A micro-history detail that brings a final touch of comfort is the way you use your inner parka as a pillow. You have folded the soft, fur-lined skin into a bundle and tucked it under your head. It smells of the clean snow and the sweet seal oil. It is the softest pillow in the world. As you lay your head down, you feel the tension leaving your neck and shoulders. Your muscles, which were so busy and strong during the building of the house, are now loose and heavy. You feel like you're sinking into the earth, but in a way that is light and peaceful. You take a final moment of reflection. You listen to the silence. It is not an empty silence. It is a full, rich quiet that tells the story of your success. You have taken a deadly blizzard and turned it into a hushed lullaby. You have taken the freezing ice and turned it into a warm sanctuary. You are a watchman of history, and you have seen how human beings have always found a way to be cozy and safe, no matter how cold the world becomes. You feel a deep sense of pride and a deep sense of peace. Your heart is slow. Your breath is easy. The night is yours. The world outside is still white and vast, but for you, the world is small, warm, and golden. The long hours of the night shift are fading into the soft edges of a dream. You can feel the heavy blankets of the Arctic night wrapping around your mind, gently pulling you toward a rest that is as deep as the sea and as quiet as the stars. There is nothing left to do. There are no more blocks to cut and no more cracks to seal. The air is still, the lamp is low, and you are perfectly safe. You are tucked away in your house of frozen bubbles, a tiny spark of life in the middle of the great quiet north. Your journey through the history of the snow is complete. You can let the silence take over now. You can let the warmth hold you. Everything is exactly as it should be. The ice is strong, the furs are soft, and you are home. The sun is rising. The gates are opening. The watch is ended.